Chapter 971. This old man is the external elder of the Zhou family. Zhou Zhe, the old man with a goatee, said with a smile, "May I know your names?" Niu Meng. Zhou Zhe nodded slightly. "So it's fellow Niu. I see that fellow Taoist has an extraordinary bearing and aura. May I know where you are from and where you work?" "Us two brothers are just rogue cultivators." Lu Yi continued to talk nonsense. Zhou Zhe's smile did not diminish. "So that's how it is. Rogue cultivators of your age rarely have such cultivation. It's true that there are talents in every generation. Since you two have come to Dingtian City, can this old man do his best as a host?" Lu Yi narrowed his eyes and looked at him, then glanced around unintentionally and said, "I didn't know that the Zhou family was so hospitable." Around them, there were many cultivators who were paying close attention to them. Under the perception of Lu Ye's divine sense, the whereabouts of these people naturally could not be hidden. Although Xiaoxinghe's perception was not very clear, he still faintly sensed it and looked vigilant. Zhou Zhe laughed. "My Zhou family has always made friends with heroes from all over the world. Fellow Taoists should know that aristocratic families are not like sects. It is not easy to establish a foothold in the 9 provinces." Lu Yi nodded slightly. "In that case, I'll have to disturb you a little. Please." Zhou Zhe turned sideways and gestured with his hand. Lu Yi and Xiaoxinghe both walked with their hands on their swords, looking straight ahead as they passed by him. After a while, in a large manor in the city, the 3 figures landed. Zhou Zhe led them to a side hall, where the guests and hosts took their seats and were served tea by the servants. Zhou Zhe and Zhou Kuei were still sitting upright. Zhou Kuei was brimming with coldness as he said, "This old man is a straightforward person, so I don't beat around the bush when I speak. Today, I took the liberty to invite the 2 of you over, and I am indeed delighted to see your talents. The 2 of you are old and incompetent, so you must have a long future ahead of you. Although your Zhou family is located in a remote area, you are most fond of making friends with heroes from all sides. The 7 of you are just passing by and will leave in the future. I appreciate elders' kindness." Ding Jin said. Xiaoxinghe hurriedly agreed. "Although you are from a family, you know the hardships of rogue cultivators. If the 2 of you are willing to work for your Zhou family will naturally treat the 2 of you unfairly." As he spoke, he clapped his hands heavily. Immediately, 2 handsome and middle-aged servants came out from the door, each carrying a tray. When they arrived in front of Zhou Zhe and fellow Taoist Niu, they put down the 2 storage pouches under the trays, bowed respectfully and turned to leave. Zhou Zhe raised his eyebrows. "Elder, what do you mean by that?" Zhou Kuei smiled. "Would the 2 of you like to take a look first?" Ding Jin picked up a storage pouch and opened it to take a look. She saw that it was full of low-grade spirit stones. There were no spirit pills for cultivation, and there was not a single magic tool-level treasure. "The Zhou family is really good, Xiaofang." Zhou Zhe put down the storage bag in his hand. "Even though I saw that there were fewer treasures, I was still shocked by the Zhou clan's wealth. There were indeed a lot of things outside the storage bag. To any true lake-stage cultivator, it was extremely attractive. The Zhou family Xiaofang also depends on the person." Zhou Kuei stroked his beard. "The 2 of you will definitely have no future. Even if the 2 of you are willing to join the Zhou family today, it is wrong to form a good relationship. Your Zhou family is an aristocratic family, and you are well aware of the drawbacks of the family's cultivation. Naturally, you understand the principle that 1 less friend is 1 less path." "That's indeed the case." Zhou Zhe nodded. "Does Xiaoxinghe agree? It seems that Wei LV is wrong." "Wei LV." Zhou Zhe frowned. He knew why he suddenly mentioned a familiar name at that time. "Wei LV is a disciple of your Zhou family. He is currently serving in the Law Enforcement Hall of the Military Province's Zhou Wang Division. He is the captain." Without a word, Ding Jin laughed. What was wrong with that old fellow? Why did he mention Wei LV? It turned out that he was waiting for Zhe Fang outside. He was also a member of the Law Enforcement Hall. This Wei LV was also the captain of the bag. After that, there were very few people who came to do the job. Most of them were cultivators. In addition to the Zhou family's cold hospitality, therefore, even if no law enforcement team took the mission and came over, it would be a good thing. It was his own. Chu Wuho could not send out a team, but it was not every time that he could not do anything. In the entire military province, the number of cultivators was as vast as the clouds. Among the aristocratic families, there were very few of them. Even if it was a small matter, it would be investigated by others. There were no small matters in the hunting pavilion. In the end, a Zhou family's Lu Yi was worth it. Even the nightingale here had been bribed by the Zhou family's Yen Lu. In such a situation, how could Ding Jin be punished? How could I, his name? He picked up his teacup and took a sip. Jose, using such a method to make it difficult for the soldiers who came later to do the job? Captain Long Changji, the smile on Ding Jin's face quickly disappeared. He stared at Jose and said, "What is Xiao Xinghe talking about? Why do I understand?" It doesn't matter if he understands or not. Ding Jin took the teacup in his hand and turned to instruct Ding Jinyuan, 8th senior brother. The Zhou family intends to bribe the law enforcement team that came later. They have all been caught red-handed. Put away the things and report to the department head later. Yes. Fellow Taoist Nyo grabbed the 2 storage bags and stuffed them back into his arms. Ding Jin suddenly stood up. Xiao Xinghe, the path is under your feet. You must widen the path. Jose also stood up and raised the guard token at his waist. The law enforcement hall is under orders. Those who dare to not stop, arrest Zhou Wang and kill him. Ding Jin had no such rule. Ding Jin was Han Hu and I was Zhou Wang. But the law enforcement team was in the business of offending others. Lu Ye's fight with others had involved many young mortals. He viewed human lives as nothing more than grass. How could a cultivator like that condone such a thing? Since I've accepted the mission, I naturally have to complete it. Zhou Kuei obviously knew our identities a long time ago. It was only because I lied about being a rogue cultivator that he was willing to pretend to be sober. Although Jose could still do things directly, I wasn't prepared to waste too much time outside. Since we had to end the battle quickly, there was no clear path. Looking at the guard token in Jose's hand, Zhou Kuei's expression changed a few times. He never thought that the attitude of the person who came last time would be so weak. After that, 2 more teams from the law enforcement hall came, but they were all resolved by Ding Jin using similar methods to protect Lu Yi. No matter what, cultivators were still humans. These cultivators who came to enforce the law were giving face to the Zhou family and Ding Jin. How could Jose know about Wei law? I've only been in the law enforcement division for a short time, and I only know these people from the unarmored 8th Brigade. Ding Jin shouted and walked inside. Walking out of the small hall, she took out the tracking disc, determined the location and rushed straight into the depths of the Zhou family. Fellow Taoist Nyo followed closely behind. This Lu Yi was in the depths of the manor. Nightingale might not be lying when she saw Lu Ye's whereabouts in the past year. The Zhou family also knew that Ding Jin had committed evil deeds, so they hid me inside the Zhou family. If I took the initiative to show up, Nightingale would see it. But Nightingale definitely knew Ding Jin's location. Along the way they met many Zhou family cultivators. Those people obviously already received orders and knew what consequences it would be to brazenly obstruct the law enforcement division's people from conducting the eucalyptus gathering. They didn't make things difficult for Jose and Ding Jinyuan, only following them from left to right. In a short while, the number of Zhou family cultivators following the 2 had decreased to nearly 100. There were even fewer Zhou family cultivators who heard the commotion and rushed over from all directions. The number of people gradually decreased. Only when they reached the back of a large courtyard, there were no more cultivators blocking their path. Jose stopped and his chi exploded. He shouted sternly, "The law enforcement division is doing its job. Who dares to obstruct us?" The 2 of them exuded the aura of a magnificent army with thousands of men and horses. Immediately, many Zhou family cultivators revealed awkward expressions. The Zhou family naturally wouldn't care about 2 true Lake Realm cultivators, but Jose and fellow Taoist Nyo are members of the Law Enforcement Division's Law Enforcement Hall. What we have to face now isn't just Jose and fellow Taoist Nyo's group of 7, but the Law Enforcement Division behind them. Zhou Kuei flew through the air and landed behind Jose and Nyo Daoyu. His expression was solemn as he said, "The 2 of you, this is your Zhou clan's forbidden area. Please do not trespass. The 2 of you are here on a mission. If your Zhou clan has any objections, you will cooperate. However, if you dare to trespass into the forbidden area, your Zhou clan will allow it." Ding Jin stared at me and said warmly, "If you want to barge in, that's fine. Hand over Ding Jin and you can take her away." Ding Jin is already in the Zhou family. You've received accurate information that Lu Yi is hiding outside. This old man said no, he said no. Pavilion, please take out evidence. Otherwise, your Zhou family's forbidden area is not something anyone can barge in. That's the evidence. Jose raised his hand and threw out the tracking disc hidden in his sleeve. Zhou Kuei caught it and his expression changed. He clearly recognized the tracking disc. He never thought that the law enforcement division would be so extravagant in carrying out missions. They actually used a tracking disc to capture people. This was something unheard of. Scram. Ding Jin took a step forward and charged into the courtyard. Stop us. Zhou Kuei saw that Zhou Zhe was really going to barge in. He was a little angry and shouted. Immediately, no one flew out and stabbed their swords towards Zhou Zhe. Their auras were filled with panic, and the person who attacked was actually not a first-order true Lake Realm cultivator. Coward. Zhou Zhe glared and unsheathed his mountain-coiling saber. Sword and saber collided. Accompanied by a muffled groan, blood splattered. The eyes of the Zhou family's young cultivators were filled with shock, because the one who flew out was actually a first-order true lake cultivator from the Zhou family. At that moment of astonishment, the Zhou clan cultivators froze in place. Zhou Zhe's footsteps came to a halt. One man and one saber slashed through the air. Wherever he passed, the Zhou family's cultivators behind him would dodge. Ding Jin Yuan followed closely in front. The saber in her hand also slashed out rays of light, supporting Ding Jin from both sides. Surround them. Zhou Kuei shouted angrily. They could only surround them. Even if Zhou Zhe was merciless, the Zhou family still dared to injure or kill Zhou Zhe's group of 7. If they really did that, the law enforcement division would definitely settle the score. At that time, even if the Zhou family was an 8th-grade family, they would still have to bear the wrath of the law enforcement division. In an instant, all the cultivators of the Zhou family surrounded Zhou Zhe and the 7 people of Daoist Niu as soon as they went up. Ding Jin was still harshly shouting, I'm sorry to offend the two of you. This is your Zhou clan's forbidden area. You can indeed trespass. Your Zhou clan will naturally give the law department an explanation for today's matter. Please quickly enter. Chapter 972. Zhou Zhe's words were polite, but his attitude was extremely firm. He obviously knew that he couldn't let Lu Yi take Zhou Wang away today. Once Zhou Wang fell into Lu Ye's hands, he might not die today, but he would definitely die in the future. In the middle of the encirclement of the Zhou family cultivators, Lu Yi and Xiao Xinghe's saber-light crisscrossed, but they were still unable to break through the encirclement of the Zhou family cultivators. The situation was tense. Although the two of them had the ability to fight above their realm, it was difficult for 2 fists to fight against 4 hands. There were too many Zhou family cultivators. If they really wanted to surround them, the two of them wouldn't be able to resolve it. Fortunately, these people knew their limits and didn't dare to take the initiative to attack. They could only defend passively. Lu Ye's attacks were fierce, and now that he was a 5th-order true Lake Realm cultivator, the Zhou family cultivators who were fighting with him didn't notice, and some of them were injured. He didn't panic at all. With his identity as a disciple of the Blue Blood sect, it was impossible for him to make such a big fuss, nor did he have the ability to do so. In any case, the Zhou family was a 3rd-grade cultivation family. Not just anyone could barge in. However, he was now a member of the Law Division's Law Enforcement Hall. Behind him stood the entire Law Division of the Army State Guard. This was the reason why he had the confidence to barge into the Zhou family today. Xiao Xinghe didn't know what Lu Yi was planning to do, but after getting along with him recently, he understood that his junior brother never did useless things. His actions were often planned before taking action. Therefore, although the situation was temporarily unfavorable to them, Xiao Xinghe was still calm. I vaguely feel that my junior brother must not have made a move yet. Moreover, even if junior brother didn't make a move today, the two of us would at least leave the Zhou family in disgrace. Our lives wouldn't be in any danger. Zhou Zhe indeed hadn't made a move yet. When he was fighting with the Zhou family cultivators, he had been focusing on sensing the movements in the courtyard. If he dared to use his divine sense, the Zhou family definitely didn't have a little cultivator like Li Xingguang. If he rashly used his divine sense, it was very likely that Lin Yinxiu wouldn't notice. Until a certain moment, surrounded by the crowd, Zhou Zhe suddenly turned his head and looked in a certain direction. Above the layers of figures, he vaguely saw no one rushing out of the courtyard and slowly flying inside. Lu Yi, who was hiding outside the courtyard, could not sit still. Or perhaps he had received some instructions and was preparing to move. Zhou Zhe gave the tracking disc to Zhou Wang just now. As long as I changed my location, Li Xing wouldn't be able to find me even if he didn't have the tracking disc. Lu Yi had a good plan, but Li Xing was not waiting for this moment. There weren't many true lake stage cultivators in the courtyard. Li Xing had seen Lu Yi before and I ran out of my own accord. Zhou Zhe really knew who was who. Even if they retreated into the courtyard, they might not succeed. I jumped out myself, which saved Zhou Zhe a lot of trouble. When Zhou Zhe waved his long saber, his aura burst out. All of a sudden, the young cultivators of the Zhou clan faintly had the illusion that there was a crescent moon hanging low in front of Zhou Zhe. The expressions of those who were not sensitive immediately changed. Saber intent. There was no crescent moon at all. This was just the effect of pure saber intent on one's body. An extremely powerful aura spread out from Jose's body. Even the spirit ocean stage cultivators who were fighting side by side with me felt their skin tighten. Although I had interacted with Jose for a while and had seen him fight, I had never seen Li Xing's full power. In that instant, the feeling Jose gave me became completely familiar and aggressive. This kind of aggression targeted not only one's aura, but also one's soul. It made those who didn't face me feel like a rabbit meeting a tiger. This kind of aggression and deterrence had very little effect in a fierce battle. The long saber slashed upward. Under the low-hanging crescent moon, the moonlight was like water flowing vertically. Every ray of moonlight was like a waterfall of saber light. Tyrant Saber's 7th style, Crescent Moon. Big heart. Without seeing the opportunity, I cried out in alarm and hurriedly protected myself. Chi-chi-chi-chi sounds were endless. The young cultivators of the Zhou clan gathered around Jose were thrown off their feet, blood splattering everywhere. We dared to deal heavy blows to Li Xing and the Spirit Ocean Stage cultivators, but Jose didn't have the slightest scruple. Just now when he said, "Those who dare to obstruct me will be killed and pardoned," he had shouted it carefully. If there were too few cultivators of the Zhou clan to block Mai and Li Xingwang's attacks, there would be casualties everywhere. It must be said that the tyrannical first style, Stars, was suitable for one-on-one fights, while the 7th style, Crescent Moon, was suitable for one-on-one fights. Above the Crescent Moon, a flaw finally appeared in the tight formation. Although the cultivators of the Zhou clan hadn't rushed over at their fastest speed to fix it, Jose's entire body hadn't been wrapped in the fiery red spirit power. This spirit power twisted and rolled around me, turning into a dense yin-yang 7 elements that intertwined with each other. It made me look like I was wrapped in a burning egg. When the eggshell was complete, a cry resounded throughout Dingtian City. The huge fire phoenix flapped its wings and rushed out of the encirclement before the group of Zhou clan cultivators could react. It rushed in the direction of Lu Ye's escape. Sensing the movement in front of him, Lu Yi turned his head to look. What entered his eyes was the blazing figure of a beautiful fire phoenix. His face turned pale with fright as he hurriedly took out his imperial equipment and slashed at the fire phoenix. The fire phoenix dodged, allowing the imperial equipment to slash back. The flames in its body roiled, and its aura became increasingly fierce. The distance between us quickly closed. In the blink of an eye, the fire phoenix's phantom covered Lu Ye's location, and he let out a miserable howl. The young cultivators of the Zhou clan who had just recovered their wits all froze, dumbstruck at the scene. The burning flames suddenly dissipated, revealing 2 figures. At this moment, Li Xing grabbed Lu Ye's arm with one hand and held a saber to Lu Ye's neck with the other. His gaze was focused on a certain spot in the Zhou clan's manner. Just now, when I was about to succeed, I felt a trace of Lin Yinxiu's aura. The other party didn't seem to have any intention of attacking, but I was too slow, which caused the other party to restrain themselves. Lin Yinxiu's small cultivator aura flashed past. Jose quietly looked in that direction for a moment before retracting his gaze. Looking at the figure he had captured and burned beyond recognition, he asked in a deep voice, "What are you shouting for?" The Fire Phoenix's aura was extremely weak, and Jose was now a true Lake Realm 7th Order cultivator. The person I captured was only at true Lake Stage 7th Order, so even though Jose had slowly dispersed the Fire Phoenix, the other party was still badly burned. At this moment, his clothes were scorched and stuck to his bloody skin, twitching in pain. I gritted my teeth and answered, but my eyes looked pleadingly in the direction Jose had been staring at. I was obviously waiting for Lin Yinxiu to save me. "Someone can save him," Jose said casually. This Li Xingwang had the ability to help just now, so he would definitely do it now. My little Gao valued Lu Yi, otherwise he would have hidden him even though he knew that I had committed a crime. But now that he had fallen into Li Xing's hands, I would definitely intervene. Even if I killed Jose and the other Spirit Sea Realm cultivators outside, the Law Division would not let this matter go. The Zhou clan was in the wrong, but in front of the entire Law Division, they were still in the upper echelons. In a lower position, what I had to consider was not a moment of glory, a person's life, but the future of the entire clan. "This person is not Lu Yi, fellow Niu has the wrong person," Zhou Wang shouted, his face sullen. You would have thought that with so few people in the Zhou clan, there would be someone who could stop Jose. Who would have thought that a true Lake Realm 7th Order cultivator would be able to display such weak strength? and not to mention such earth-shattering explosive power. Whether it was the crescent moon or the fire phoenix, they were all methods that an abnormal cultivator could use. Of course, the most important thing was that we did not have any misgivings and dared to do anything to Li Xing and the 7 Spirit Sea Realm cultivators, which gave Li Xing an opportunity. If it was a life-or-death battle just now, Jose might be able to protect himself, but the Spirit Sea Realm cultivators would definitely die on the spot. No, you have the wrong person. Bring him back to the Law Division and we will know. Li Xing was too lazy to care about me. I knew Lu Yi, but no one knew Lu Yi. Ying was still with Xiao Xinghe, so he called out to the Spirit Sea Realm cultivators, 8th senior brother, leave. Li Xingguang nodded silently and soared into the sky. Who dares to leave? Zhou Wang shouted, leading a group of Zhou clan cultivators to gather again. Jose ignored me, but he looked at the Zhou clan's Lin Yinxiu and said, Sir, you should know the Law Division's way of doing things. If the Zhou clan still insists on obstructing you, you can't just take him away. Taking his life is the same. As he said that, the mountain plate saber in his hand moved slightly. Lu Yi let out a muffled groan as blood began to flow from his neck. Suddenly there was no surge of divine sense. The others could sense it, but Li Xing sensed it clearly. After a while, Zhou Wang put away his weak attitude and cupped his fists. Fellow Taoist Nyo, you misunderstood. The Zhou clan doesn't insist on obstructing you, but my injuries are light. Would you allow the Zhou clan's medical cultivators to treat my injuries first? Obviously, he had received Li Xingguang's secret instructions. The other party also understood that things had developed to this extent. If Lu Yi came back and continued to cause trouble, the Zhou clan wouldn't benefit at all. Jose glanced at Li Xing and snorted, those injuries are enough to kill him. Lu Ye's injuries looked terrible, but I was a true Lake Realm cultivator. How could I die like that? He changed the topic. Yes, since the elder has spoken, we still have to give face. 80 miles to the west of the city, the Zhou clan can send medical cultivators. You only have to wait for the time it takes to burn a stick of incense. After saying that, he turned and left. The Spirit Sea Realm cultivators followed closely behind. Just as they flew out of the Zhou clan's manor, they saw a figure in the distance rushing over aggressively. It was Xiao Xinghe. Li Xing was a little surprised. While you told him to wait here, why did he come over? Li Xingguang said, you saw that there was no movement over there, so you guessed that they were fighting and wanted to help. Is the fight over? It's over. Did we win? Xiao Xinghe glanced at Lu Yi and Jose's hand and exclaimed, Captain is so strong. Chapter 973. Where are those people? Lu Yi asked. Lin Yinxiu was responsible for guarding the people who were captured before. Now that she didn't guard the prisoners properly and ran over, wouldn't there be no one guarding over there? Lin Yinxiu smiled confidently. Don't worry, Nightingale is watching over there. They can't run away. The three hurriedly turned back. When they arrived, Lu Yi realized where Lin Yinxiu's confidence came from. On the spirit boat, the 5 of them were bound by her net-like treasure and were surrounded by explosive fire spirit stones. Nightingale's forehead was covered in cold sweat as she held an explosive talisman and stared at them vigilantly. She looked like she would activate the explosive talisman at any time if anyone dared to move and send them on their way. In such a situation, who dared to run around? They all stayed where they were and didn't move. Although Nightingale was bribed by the Zhou clan and didn't pass on the information, he was still a member of the Law Division. His actions were exposed by Lu Yi, and now was a chance to redeem himself. Since Lin Yinxiu gave him this opportunity, Nightingale naturally seized it. Seeing Lu Yi and the others return, Nightingale was relieved. Lin Yinxiu stepped forward and put away the explosive fire spirit stones and her big net treasure. Lu Yi threw Zhou Wang onto the spirit boat and waited quietly. The Zhou clan's efficiency was very high. Not long after they returned, Jose rushed over with a medical cultivator. The medical cultivator examined Zhou Wang's injuries, and Jose came to Lu Ye's side and cupped his hands. Fellow Taoist Nyo, today's matter is my Zhou clan's fault. I'm sorry, but I hope that fellow Taoist Nyo can understand the Zhou clan's intention to protect the disciples of the clan. I can understand, Lu Yi replied indifferently. I also hope that the Zhou clan can understand our difficult work. The people had already been captured. Although the process wasn't very pleasant, the other party had already lowered their attitude, so there was no need to be unforgiving. This time he had come here to complete his mission. Jose couldn't help but nod. This old man understands. He looked around and said in a low voice, this old man has a request and I hope that fellow Taoist will agree. Let's hear it. The things that the Zhou clan gave to the two fellow Taoists today, please don't report it. Otherwise it won't be good for you or my Zhou clan. What is it? Bribing a member of the law enforcement hall in private was indeed not beneficial to the Zhou clan if word got out. However, it was also not beneficial to those law enforcement hall members who had come to carry out missions previously. If they really wanted to investigate, the law enforcement hall team that came to the Zhou family to carry out a mission would definitely be implicated. Lu Yi was now working in the law department and his job was to offend people. However, he didn't want to needlessly offend his colleagues, so he didn't intend to report this matter. Besides, how could Chen Wudong not know about this? Perhaps he had known all along and was just turning a blind eye to it. Since the division head was already like this, why should he meddle? Hearing Lu Ye's words, Zhou Zhe stroked his beard and smiled faintly. This old man remembered wrongly. Please don't blame me, fellow Taoist Niu. As they spoke, the medical cultivator had already treated Zhou Wang's injuries. His injuries only looked miserable, but they were not serious. Naturally, it was not difficult to treat them. Fellow Taoist Niu, please do your best to take care of this good-for-nothing disciple of my Zhou clan during your trip to Vast Sky City. I'm only responsible for bringing him back to Vast Sky City. As long as he doesn't do anything unnecessary, I won't do anything to him. Don't worry, fellow Taoist. Lu Yi nodded and turned to look at Nightingale, who was waiting to be punished. His face darkened. You can go to Vast Sky City to receive your punishment. Nightingale felt as if she had been pardoned. Yes. She took out her flying spiritual artifact and hurried away. Judging from the direction she was heading, she was indeed heading to Vast Sky City. Goodbye. Lu Yi turned around and cupped his hands at Zhou Zhe before stepping onto the spiritual artifact. After a short while, the spiritual artifact soared into the sky and turned into a beam of light, quickly disappearing into the distance. Zhou Zhe watched as the spiritual artifact left. He turned around and flew toward Dingtian City. Soon he returned to the Zhou clan's manor and met the current patriarch of the Zhou clan, Zhou Dingtian, in a forbidden area. The name of Dingtian City was also derived from him. The forbidden area was where Lu Yi had sensed the presence of a divine ocean realm cultivator. It was also the place where Zhou Dingtian cultivated. Patriarch, they are gone, Zhou Zhe reported. Zhou Dingtian sighed slightly. There will be such a day. Patriarch, if you don't want to let them go, why did you let them go? What else can I do? Force them to stay? Zhou Dingtian shook his head slowly. If they were just two ordinary true lake realm cultivators, I wouldn't care about them. However, they have the law department behind them. You shouldn't have bothered them. If I did something, things would only get worse. Besides, if I'm not mistaken, that kid with the surname of Niu should be the rising star of the Jade Blood Sect. Jade Blood Sect? Zhou Zhe was a bit surprised, but he soon realized, you mean Lu Yi? How so? Zhou Dingtian said, the four sacred beasts. Lu Yi of the Jade Blood Sect had been in the limelight in recent years. He had stirred up trouble in the Demon's Ridge, in the Spiritual Stream battlefield and the Cloud River battlefield. Naturally, many people had noticed him. Zhou Dingtian had noticed him before. When the Fire Phoenix of the four sacred beasts used its means, Zhou Dingtian was sure of Lu Ye's identity. He had received a report about Lu Ye's deeds in the hunting ground. Lu Yi had used the Fire Phoenix in the hunting ground. If Zhou Dingtian still didn't know that Niu Meng was Lu Yi, he would have lived in vain. Tang Yifeng has been revived and is now in the Elder Group. You've heard about him. If I make things difficult for Lu Yi here, I'm afraid Tang Yifeng will come to our Zhou clan tomorrow. Zhou Zhe's head was covered in cold sweat, and his expression was full of lingering fear. He was glad that because he was concerned about Lu Yi's status as a member of the law enforcement hall, he had ordered the Zhou clan's cultivators to only surround him and not injure him. Otherwise, if Lu Yi was really injured and Tang Yifeng was drawn out, it would be very difficult to wrap things up. But young Master Zhou Wang, Zhou Dingtian sighed slightly, send a message to Zhou Kuei. Ask him to do his best. I don't expect to be exempted from punishment. Just make sure he doesn't die. Yes. Junior brother, is this the direction to Ao Mountain? On the spiritual boat, Shaoxing had checked the map and found that the spiritual boat was not flying to Haotian City, but to Ao Mountain. It's on the way. I have something to do in this sect. Okay. I haven't seen second senior sister for a long time. Shaoxing had nodded. Suddenly he remembered something and took out 2 storage bags. These things. They were the 2 storage bags that Zhou Zhe gave them before. There were many good things in them. Senior brother, you can keep them for cultivation. I don't lack cultivation resources and neither does Inxiu. With Jianghu as her backer, how could Lin Inxiu lack cultivation resources? That's not good. Junior brother, didn't you say? Xiao Xinghe hesitated. I was just saying. Can you really hand them over? Xiao Xinghe was speechless. Earlier, Lu Yi had forcefully charged into the Zhou clan and brazenly made a move, and he'd forcefully captured Zhou Wang right under the noses of a group of Zhou clan cultivators. It caused him to think that this junior brother of his was upright and law-abiding. He was relieved. Then I won't stand on ceremony. Xiao Xinghe laughed and put away the storage bags. Although it was on the way, it was a detour, but the general direction was right. At noon the next day, the spirit boat arrived at the boundary of Ao Mountain. After flying forward for a long time, they finally arrived at the guarding peak. The huge peak was still empty. There was not a single person in sight. Although the Jade Blood sect had many disciples now, they had only cultivated for a short time. They were either cultivating hard in the Spirit Stream battlefield or in the Cloud River battlefield. Naturally, the main sect was quiet. Unlike other sects, whether it was the main sect or the two major battlefields, there were a large number of disciples coming and going. But soon, a familiar figure came into sight. It was Shui Yuan who had noticed the movement. When she saw Lu Yi and Xiao Xinghe on the bow of the boat, Shui Yuan's face was full of smiles. The spirit boat landed and Lu Yi jumped off. Second senior sister. Shui Yuan nodded slightly and turned her gaze to Xiao Xinghe. Xiao Xinghe took a deep breath and calmed the excitement in his heart. He grinned at Shui Yuan and said, "Second senior sister, I'm back." Shui Yuan's eyes were a little misty. She raised her hand and patted Xiao Xinghe's shoulder gently. Because of her height, she even tiptoed a little. Just when Lu Yi thought she was going to enjoy the warm scene of sister and brother, Shui Yuan's jade-like hand grabbed Xiao Xinghe's ear and twisted it fiercely. Gritting her teeth, she said, "You still know to come back. I haven't seen you for several years. I thought you died outside." Xiao Xinghe tilted his head and bent his back. He bared his teeth and begged for mercy. "It hurts, little junior brother, save me." Lu Yi silently took a few steps back and said decisively, "I'm going to pay my respects to master. It was best to escape first." On the spirit boat that had not been put away, Zhou Wang and the others trembled when they sensed the aura of Shui Yuan's divine sea realm cultivator. On the other hand, Lin Yinxiu was watching with a smile on her face, looking curious. On the Clear Heart Peak, Lu Yi arrived with ease. She did not expect to only see her master's clone, Xiao Dai. Of course, Xiao Dai was her master's clone, which was equivalent to her master herself. According to her, in the process of repairing the Dragon Emperor, her master had received a lot of inspiration. After the sect master left with the Dragon Emperor, she began to meditate in seclusion. Since she was in seclusion, Lu Yi naturally did not want to disturb her. Her master also needed to be distracted by using her clone to talk to him. After listening to her teachings for a while, Lu Yi hurriedly left the Clear Heart Peak. Just as she was about to return to the Clear Heart Peak, a message suddenly came from the battlefield imprint. Lu Yi checked and found that it was Yi. When he came here just now, Yi and Hupa had separated from him and headed to the Green Bamboo Peak. The Green Bamboo Peak was Lu Ye's spiritual peak. Because she did not come back often, every time she came back, Yi would clean it up. "Lu Yi, come quickly. There seems to be someone here." "Who is it?" Lu Yi was surprised. This was the Jade Blood sect's main sect. The Green Bamboo Peak was his spiritual peak. Shui Yuan was also here all year round. Who could run over there? Chapter 974. Hurrying to the Green Bamboo Peak, he saw Yi standing in front of his bamboo tower and watching from afar. Hooper also revealed his true form, crouching down and growling at the bamboo tower. Lu Yi looked over and frowned. Because there were many traces of formations outside the bamboo tower. This undoubtedly meant that there was someone inside the tower. The traces of formations were exposed. Yi must have wanted to clean up the bamboo tower, but she triggered the formation and was stopped by the formation. Something was wrong. Second senior sister was now at the Divine Ocean Realm. If someone really broke in, there was no reason for her not to notice. Since the person was living here, it meant that they had second senior sister's permission. But this was his spirit peak, his bamboo tower. Who could make second senior sister compromise like this? Just as Lu Yi was guessing, a beautiful face came into view from the window on the second floor of the bamboo tower. The person in the bamboo tower obviously noticed the commotion outside and looked over. Looking at each other, Lu Yi was extremely surprised. "My lord." The person living here was none other than Yan Yuxian, who claimed to be going into seclusion for a while. Hooper immediately transformed into the size of a cat, no longer looking as majestic as before. Instead, he looked extremely well behaved. "My lord, why are you here?" Yan Yuxian looked at him and said, "I'm here for seclusion and want to borrow your place. I've already told Shui Yuan." Lu Yi finally understood and quickly cupped his fists. "I didn't know. Please don't blame me. I'll take my leave now." Then he called Yi and Hooper and quickly slipped away. Since Yan Yuxian wants to go into closed-door meditation, she has to find a place that is not noisy. You are an individual cultivator. Although the War Province is small, there is no place for you to stay except for Haotian City. But Great Heaven City is obviously a suitable place for you. Just as Lu Yi was guessing, a beautiful face came into view from the window on the second floor of the bamboo tower. The person in the bamboo tower obviously noticed the commotion outside and looked over. Looking at each other, Lu Yi was extremely surprised. "My lord?" The person living here was none other than Yan Yuxian, who claimed to be going into seclusion for a while. Hooper immediately transformed into the size of a cat, no longer looking as majestic as before. He looked extremely well behaved. "Sir, why are you here?" The Thought Moon Immortal looked at him and said, "I came here to cultivate in seclusion and wanted to borrow your place. I've already informed Shui Yuan." Only then did Lu Yi understand and hurriedly cupped his fists. "This lowly one did not know. Please do not blame me, this lowly one will take his leave now." After saying that, he called out to Yi and Hooper and quickly slipped away. Since Yan Yuxian wants to go into closed-door meditation, she has to find a place that is not noisy. You are an individual cultivator. Although the military province is small, there is no place for you to stay except for Haotian City. However, Grand Heaven City is obviously a suitable place for you. The Blue Blood sect was the best choice. Other than Shui Yuan, there are many other disciples coming and going from our sect. Furthermore, Shui Yuan is not there to look after them, so there won't be anyone coming to disturb you. But today he was startled because of Yi and him. Speaking of which, why did the Missing Moon Immortal always hate living with his bamboo house? After that, it was the same at Ashen Flame Mountain Pass. The first bamboo house he built was taken over by you. Now you are taking over the nest again. Ao Mountain is so small, but there are many spirit peaks. You just had to choose Green Bamboo Peak to cultivate in seclusion. What can I do about it? He returned to the main peak. Shui Yuan was busy in the kitchen and Xiao Xinghe was helping him. It was obvious that Xiao Xinghe had done those trivial things before. He was busy for a while, but he was enjoying it. Shi Juanxin was nowhere to be seen. "Where's 8's senior brother?" Jade Slip asked. "He went to catch fish at Moon Lake," Shui Yuan answered casually. Shui Yuan replied casually. The disciples of the Jade Blood sect all had a special liking for the blood-red trout in Moon Lake. 7's senior brother was like this, and 8's senior brother was the same. The youth had not returned to the sect, but since it was difficult for him to come back, he naturally wanted to have a good meal. 7th senior sister, you need some resources. Jade Slip said. That trip back to Ao Mountain was really on the way. The reason why he took a detour was not because of this. The Jade Slip did not have a fixed refund for battle merits every month. As long as it was too wasteful, it would be enough for me to use. However, the amount of contribution points I needed was not small. Although I did not need much contribution points, there were always times when I needed to use them. Take the stone June that I bought from the Tianji treasury as an example. It also required contribution points. Usually, I used the Stealing Heaven secret cultivation method with the help of spirit tokens, which also required contribution points. If I wanted to earn contribution points, I just had to sell a few things outside the Tianji treasury. Back then, the Jade Slip had extorted the small sects of Myriad Devil Ridge twice at the Spirit Stream battlefield. The materials it obtained were worth tens of millions of contribution points. They were all stored in the Blue Blood sect's treasury. Now that I wanted to use them, Shui Yuan would naturally say something. After obtaining the treasury's restriction Jade Slip from Shui Yuan, Shi Jun took a detour. He was familiar with the path. The treasury was located in the middle of the main peak. He used the Jade Slip to open the restrictions and walked in. It was a small cave filled with all kinds of cultivation resources. There were no spirit tools. The Jade Slip plundered everything outside. Soon after, he left the treasury and went to the Tianji Hall. He sold the things he plundered to the Tianji treasury. His contribution points increased at a visible rate. It only stopped when it reached 1 million. Such a small amount of contribution points would be enough for me to use for a long time. Night fell. In the big kitchen, the 7 of them sat down and tasted Shui Yuan's cooking. Jade Slip and Lin Yinxiu toasted each other. Even Shui Yuan, who hated us junior apprentice brothers drinking, drank a few cups. Xiaoxing had joined in. After a while, his face turned red from drinking. If he was not in the true lake stage, he would have collapsed to the ground. It was a joyous occasion. Under the leaves, Zhou Wang and the other 8 people who were captured watched from afar. Their eyes were filled with envy. When they thought of the past, they felt bitter. It was late into the night before the banquet ended and everyone went to rest. The next day at dawn, Jade Slip and the others were ready to set off. Shui Yuan urged earnestly, "Don't be a weakling when you encounter trouble. The old man is now in vast Sky City. If no one dares to make things difficult for them, go and find me." Understood, 7th senior sister. Shi Jun and Lin Yinxiu replied together. "Go. Come back less often when you're free." Shui Yuan waved her hand. 7th senior sister, take care. Jade Slip and Shi Jun bowed together. After a while, Lu Yi turned into a stream of light and soared into the sky. Under the green bamboo peak, on the 7th floor of the bamboo building, Thought Moon Immortal watched quietly. Only when Shi Jun disappeared from her sight did she wave her hand and the 7 young array restrictions were activated. She went into seclusion again. Grand Sky City, Law Department Hall. Today was relatively idle. There were not many official matters to deal with. It was rare that he did not have such leisure days. Naturally, Qian Yudang would stay in the Law Department Hall. He got up and walked out of the door. He was prepared to go to the transmission department to talk to Fan Xiangyi and complain. "I'm suffering. Ever since Yinxiu left me, I often sent messages to ask about you. However, I received too little response every time. I couldn't feel at ease. I was always worried that you were bullied inside and that you met a weak opponent." When he passed by the hunting pavilion, he stopped and turned to leave. The fat old man was sleeping on the table. His snores were earth-shattering. The veins on Chen Yudang's forehead throbbed. He knocked on the table. The fat old man raised his head sleepily. Seeing that it was Chen Yudang, he was instantly angry. Disturbing someone's sleep for no reason. Has he ever done that to Shi Jun? Chen Yudang was so angry that he laughed. Is that how he guards the hunting pavilion? The fat old man sat up straight. "I've worked hard all my life. I'm already so young. I just want to spend the rest of my life in peace. I have other pursuits. What? Does this little one want to reward me for neglecting my duties? Come. Quickly send this old man to the prison for a few days and enjoy some peace." Chen Yudang was angry. He was like that when he was young. Why is it that the older he gets, the more serious he becomes? He was in the mood to quarrel with me. He changed the topic. Back to business. Has Lu Ye been coming back to submit missions? The fat old man was slightly surprised. Yinxiu is outside my team. How could he know about my situation? Speaking of that, Chen Yudang's heart ached. Perhaps that young man had been too strict with Yinxiu. Now that you've regained your freedom, you no longer let yourself loose. Usually, you would even reply to my messages. Now, I'm the one asking you. Chen Yudang brought out the style of the law commissioner. The fat old man continued to prick my heart. He chuckled. Yinxiu wants to contact him, right? I've told him long ago that this is how boys should be raised. It's a good thing to protect them too much. He just listened. Yinxiu looks obedient and docile, but in reality she's just like your mother. Chen Yudang turned around and left. The fat old man grabbed my arm. Why are you walking so slowly? Chen Yudang shouted angrily. Old thing, if you have something to say to him, let him go. I haven't finished yet. Does he want to ask about Lu Ye's situation? Chen Yudang stopped struggling. How is it? What's the situation? Have you seen me recently? Chen Yudang didn't think much of it. This doesn't mean that I can complete the next mission. The last 2 missions were completed so quickly. Was it just pure luck? I don't think so. The fat old man nodded. Chen Yudang understood. That's still abnormal. A person's luck can't always be so good. As soon as he finished speaking, he turned to look inside and saw an unfamiliar figure enter with a blade. Junior, you've come to submit the mission. Shi Jun walked into the hunting pavilion and was surprised. I'm here too. Chen Yudang smiled. You've completed the mission? Completed. As the Jade Scroll spoke, it gave the fat old man the mission manager for the next mission. You're wrong. Chen Yudang objected. Excluding the last 2 missions that took a few days, the last mission that took half a month was unusually efficient. He thought about it and said, there's no need to work so hard. It's better to pay less attention to your own cultivation. If your cultivation is low, it'll be even more inefficient to complete the mission. Yes. Jun casually replied. He then said to the fat old man, "Where are the mission managers for the next mission manager?" "They're all here." The fat old man took out the mission managers. Those missions were the ones that people were interested in. Naturally, Jun kept them. Qian Yudang frowned. He had just told the Jade Scroll to work so hard. Was Big Bro going to take another mission? "You're simply treating my words like the wind." He wanted to persuade the Jade Scroll to let Inshio rest less. However, the Jade Scroll passed the mission managers over and handed them back to the fat old man. "Submit the mission." The fat old man looked at the Jade Scroll and the Jade Scroll looked at me. The two of them stared at each other. "What do you mean?" The fat old man was stunned. "Didn't the junior say that the mission targets couldn't be taken first and that the process of handing over the missions couldn't be completed? Is that okay?" The fat old man came back to his senses and found it hard to believe. "What he means is that he took all the targets outside. They are all waiting in the prison." Jun gave him a thumbs up and pointed forward. The fat old man turned to look at Qian Yudang. Qian Yudang was looking for information. It was a report from the prison. Sensing the fat old man's gaze, he nodded slightly with a surprised expression. "After that, I thought that completing a mission in half a month was unusually efficient. But for him to have completed 8 missions in half a month, that was abnormal. How did Big Bro do it?" Chapter 975. No one would make such a joke in the hunting pavilion. With Qian Wudong's affirmation, the fat elder was sure that Lu Yi had completed all the tasks on the jade slip. But, could he really do it? 6 tasks in half a month. Even a cultivator in the Divine Sea realm might not be able to do it. It would take a lot of time and energy just to find people. "Then I'll leave now." Lu Yi gave back the jade slip and bowed. "You're not taking any more tasks?" the fat elder asked casually. "Not for now," Lu Yi said, waving his hand. "Not for now." The main reason was that he had run out of military credits. He only had a little more than 20,000 military credits left. A tracking plate cost 30,000 credits. He couldn't afford it. Besides, he had been running around for a long time. He needed to rest for a while. At least, he needed time for his 3rd senior brother to cultivate. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to earn so many military credits. Normally, the law enforcement team would use the military credits to exchange for spiritual sticks for cultivation after completing a task. When the military credits were used up, they would take on more tasks. This was the cultivation rhythm of most cultivators. They would use up their military credits as fast as possible and turn them into their own resources. Lu Yi left. In the hunting pavilion, Qian Wudong and the fat elder looked at each other. "Elder, do you think it's possible that it's God's will?" Qian Wudong asked seriously. "It's impossible." The fat elder shook his head. "Even with the blessing of the heavens, a person's luck would not be that good. In half a month, 8 mission targets. After deducting the cost of traveling back and forth, one person would be captured every 2 days on average. That was not something that could be explained by the blessing of the heavens. How did I do it? Qian Wudong couldn't figure it out. The fat elder didn't think much of it. "I said I borrowed the tracking plate, but I doubted it. But now there's no other explanation except for the tracking plate." "I don't have that many tracking plates." No. You can ask Inshio. You went on a task with the big guy. You should know how to complete the task." Qian Wudong nodded. "You can try." He was afraid that Inshio would tell him, "Yes, I was lucky that time." Xiao Ruiyun replied slowly. "How is it?" the fat old man asked. Qian Yudang was amused. He really used the tracking disc to complete his task. How extravagant. Ever since the Martial King entered the law enforcement division, he had completed 4 missions that took him less than a month. In other words, I had used up 4 tracing discs in a month's time. How could I have so few tracking plates? "I just remembered something," the fat old man said slowly. Back then, Feng Yujiang had used the tracing plate several times to find the specific location of these weaklings in the Demon Ridge and then killed them. It caused a small panic in the Wan Mo Ridge. You were very understanding back then. How could Feng Yujiang have so few tracking discs to use? He also asked me face to face. I said I could make one myself. But the tracing board is a gift from heaven. How could Feng Yujiang make it? If that's the case, then it's something that this old man can know. It's possible that the tracing board can't be made. Feng Yujiang doesn't know how to make it. It's natural that Lu Yi knows how to make it. After all, they are both from the Jade Blood sect. Qian Yudang nodded slightly. If that was the case, then everything made sense. That Inshio is a treasure. The fat old man said, This explosive fire spirit rock was refined by me. If the tracking plate can also be refined, then the value of my existence will be too small. That's why you always ask me to take on difficult missions. It's also because of Inshio. You are afraid that I will get involved in dangerous situations. That Inshio even dared to trespass into a place like the Shocking Waves Lake. He must be a coward. Originally, you wanted to use those missions to kill some time for me, but you thought that I could still make the tracing board. If that was the case, then the plan would work. What's his plan? He can always ask me to take on more missions. Does the law enforcement division have such rules and precedents? The fat old man asked. Find a chance to talk to me. Qian Yudang was worried. If King Wu really didn't have any ambition and was just muddling along, then this matter would be troublesome. The key is that looking at King Wu's path of growth, how can I know that Inshio is a person who knows his place? But as the old head said, he can always ask me to take on more missions. The law enforcement division doesn't have such precedents. In the courtyard, King Wu returned and saw Lin Inshio and Xiao Ruyun. They were probably resting. The snowman in the courtyard had long melted, and the pure white snow had turned into a clear stream. King Wu retreated from his room and began to make the explosive fire stone. In a few days it would be time for the delivery. He was calculating whether or not he could increase the production slightly. That way he would be able to earn less battle points each month. Even if he could, the increase would be too little. Otherwise it would be easy to explain. Earning 700,000 battle points each month was just right. While he was busy, the battlefield imprint didn't send a message. King Wu checked and found that it was a message from Gung Lui, asking if he was in Grand Sky City. King Wu hurriedly replied. He thought that the A8 Brigade was carrying out some mission and lacked manpower. Who knew that they were called to drink? The A8 Brigade had just returned from a mission. Every time they returned from a mission, it was already a tradition for them to gather. King Wu naturally agreed. He walked out of his room, thought for a moment, and came to the room of 8's senior brother. He knocked heavily on the door. Drinking was naturally something that could be done alone. It was best if there were fewer people. Moreover, now that he was working in the law enforcement hall, he didn't have much contact. Pan Sihai pushed open the door and walked out. King Wu stated his purpose. No one called to drink. If senior brother has something to do, why don't we go together? Pan Sihai laughed. Such a good thing, of course I can't miss it. Let's go together. You go too. Pan Sihai poked his head out of the room next door. Even Hu Pe, who was resting in the corridor, scuttled to King Wu's shoulder, looking like they would share both fortune and misfortune. Let's go. King Wu called out. The 8 of them immediately flew into the air. After a while, they arrived at the 100 Fragrances house. The small hall was full of guests and was very quiet. Pan Sihai led Lin Inshio and Xiao Ruyun in and saw Pan Sihai waiting outside. Yeah, he came late. He'll have to punish himself with 8 cups later. Pan Sihai said coldly. After that, I called King Wu as junior brother. But now that King Wu's cultivation was deteriorating rapidly and was about to surpass me, it was too appropriate to call him junior brother. Moreover, we were familiar with each other, so calling him Iya was more intimate. Seeing the 2 people King Wu brought, he asked, Those 2 are? That's your 8th senior brother Lin Inshio, and that's your brigade member Xiao Ruyun. King Wu introduced. Hearing that Lin Inshio was King Wu's 8th senior brother, Xiao Xinghe was extremely cold. Xiao Ruyun was also a beauty and was praised by Pan Sihai. Although that guy didn't use his brain when he spoke, he was a bad person by nature. He was good with words and made people feel close to him. The 7 of them walked in together. The 100 Fragrances house was big. The small hall inside had 8 floors and could accommodate dozens of tables. The front hall didn't have many elegant courtyards and the environment was pleasant. It was mainly used to entertain regular guests. Gung Lui had a close relationship with the lady boss of the 100 Fragrances house. Every time he came, he was naturally placed in the elegant courtyard. The courtyard that time was the next time. It was the same under the environment. It was all wrong. In the pavilion in the courtyard, at a long table, a few members of the A8 Brigade were sitting on the right and left. They were drinking and having fun. Xiao Xinghe led King Wu and the others over. After greeting each other, King Wu introduced Lin Inshio and Xiao Ruyun. The others didn't have much reaction, but their attitude was cold. Gung Lui looked at Xiao Ruyun in surprise. I often go in and out of the law department's small hall, so I naturally recognize Xiao Ruyun. I didn't expect that the department head would be willing to let this guy out and let him join King Wu's team. It could be seen how important King Wu was in the department head's heart. Although he saw through it, he didn't say anything. He only treated Xiao Ruyun as a special law enforcement hall cultivator. Mu Jing was obviously very depressed. Because every time there was a gathering, there was only one man. Even if they were as close as brothers and sisters, there wasn't much to do. Xiao Ruyun's arrival made you one less person to whisper to. For a moment, the two men gathered together. There was no coarse and delicious food served. Everyone didn't have cultivation, so they drank freely and chatted in low voices. The scene was silent. There shouldn't be any cultivators gathered in the courtyards on the right and left, so they couldn't hear the conversation on both sides. In fact, there weren't any restrictions or formations in the courtyard. If they didn't want others to overhear them, they couldn't activate the restrictions to isolate them. This was only done when they weren't discussing important matters. It wasn't that troublesome for ordinary gatherings. No matter what, activating the restriction formation would consume spirit stones. After 8 rounds of drinking, the atmosphere became increasingly cold. Gung, Lu Yi, and the others struck their bowls with their chopsticks, either singing loudly or singing softly. The King of Wu listened with great interest. Although I could hear what they were singing, I could feel the deep friendship between the members of the A8 Brigade. When cultivators left their sects, they retreated to the small lands of the 4 provinces and entered the military province guards. Although their sects were still the least they could rely on, the friends they made along the way who shared the same ideals could be counted on. This way they won't be as dull as the young masters in their lives. The atmosphere was harmonious. Suddenly, a stern shout came from the side courtyard. "What are you wailing and howling about, disturbing people's peace?" The singing and singing came to an abrupt end. Everyone looked at each other in dismay. There were some who were angry because of this. After all, their side was in the wrong first. Disturbing the noise of others was appropriate. It was also because everyone's mood was too low this time and they drank too much that they considered this. In the past, when the A8 Brigade gathered, although it was quiet, it would still be like today. Gung Lui then ordered, "Liyun, activate the restriction formation in the courtyard." Understood. Xiao Xinghe accepted the order and was about to activate the restriction formation in the courtyard. At that moment, a loud cry suddenly came from the side courtyard. It seemed like no one was frightened. Immediately after, the voice of the person who shouted just now sounded, "Boss Shen, if he drinks that wine he is giving your brother's face. Brother, your mood today is too good, so you don't have to do anything polite." Xiao Xinghe's figure paused. Gung Lui also suddenly raised his head, looking in the direction of the side courtyard. Chapter 976. Lu Ye's wine cup paused as he listened carefully. If he did not hear wrongly, the exclamation just now should be the voice of the lady boss of the 100 Fragrances house, Shen Manzi. He did not know what was going on at the table next to them. How could they say such arrogant words when they came to this gathering? Those who could be placed in the elegant courtyard were definitely regular customers of the 100 Fragrances house. Every time these customers came, Shen Manzi would usually propose a few toasts to them. This was also a normal business practice for businessmen. Shen Manzi should have gone to propose a toast, but he did not know if she did something wrong that caused the other party to make things difficult for her. Leader. Xiao Riyun stood not far away and looked at King Gung Wu. King Gung Wu sat still and shook his head slowly. "Don't worry about it first." There were all kinds of cultivators who came to the 100 Fragrances house to have fun. Shen Manzi was extremely beautiful and outstanding. Although this kind of thing was not common, it had happened before and was easily resolved by Shen Manzi. She was originally a person who knew how to dance, otherwise she would not be able to run such a restaurant in Haotian City. In the courtyard next door, Shen Manzi's voice could be heard. "Esteemed guests, it is rare for you to come. I will drink a few more cups with you. Let me toast first." Not long after, there was a loud cheer from the other side. It was probably Shen Manzi drinking a cup. "I have long heard that Boss Shen has a good tolerance for alcohol. Today I see that the rumors are true. Come, let me toast Boss Shen." Another person spoke. There was another round of passionate persuasion. Although Shen Manzi declined politely, she could not resist the enthusiasm of the other party and could only drink another cup. "You toast Shen Manzi." No one spoke again. Brother Gung Wu's gentle voice could be heard, "But I can't drink any more. If I drink any more, I will really get drunk." Wan Shishu is already giving face. He has already accompanied the other brothers. Why is he getting drunk when it comes to you? Does Shen Manzi think highly of you? How would I dare? Esteemed guest, you must be joking. Since she thinks highly of you, I will drink all of it. Esteemed guest, please let go. While they were arguing, in the pavilion in the courtyard, Sheng Guanqiu vaguely felt that something was wrong. He looked at Geng Lui and said, "Leader, it seems like they are coming for us." Otherwise, there was no reason for him to go overboard. Those who can be placed in the elegant courtyard must be frequent guests. Since they are frequent guests, they must give Brother Wu Wang some face. Moreover, they must also know the relationship between Brother Wu Wang and Geng Wanshi. Although Geng Luyi was at the Spirit Sea realm, he was still the captain of the Law Enforcement Division's Team A8. In Vast Sky City, he was also a big signboard. How would an abnormal person dare to drink and cause trouble outside? Unless we're targeting the 8th A8 squad and just want to tear apart all pretense of cordiality and use Brother Wu Wang to discuss Soldier Geng. It's Team A7 and Team D1. Kang Yuanxiao recognized their voices and confirmed Sheng Guanqiu's speculation. Although they were all part of the Law Enforcement Division's Law Enforcement Division, they didn't always get along well with each other. Perhaps it was because of their own reasons, or perhaps it was because of the sects behind them, but there was never any great grudges or friction between them. Of course, there was even less competition between them. Team A8, A7 and Team D1's relationship could be considered harmonious. This was especially true for Team A7. Team A8 had never worked together with them on a mission before. During the mission, Team A7 changed the flow of the mission without permission in order to steal credit, which indirectly led to the death of a member of Team A8. This was also the reason why Team A8 only had 7 members. Although half of the 7 squad's battle merits were deducted as punishment, the dead member of the 8th squad had a way to revive. This caused the members of the 8th squad to view the 7th squad with animosity. Of course, Team A7's impression of Team A8 wasn't much better. In their view, this member of Team A8 died because he was careless enough. Otherwise, why would he die when everyone else was fine? In the end, they worked hard for so little credit. Go take a look. Geng Wanshi drank the wine in his cup and stood up. Team A8's members all stood up. They don't move. Geng Lui instructed, and then his figure leaped and landed in the neighboring courtyard. Immediately after, some people exclaimed, "Geng Lui." Geng Lui's voice sounded, "If you want to drink, drink with them. How can these women bully a man? You are all guests. We only came to toast you because we think highly of you. How can this be called bullying? What right does Geng Lui have to stand up?" Geng Lui said in a low voice, "Drink or drink? If you want to drink, then drink. If you want to drink, then scram." Brother Lui is really extravagant. The lady boss has already spoken and he's chasing the guests away. Is this how 100 Fragrances House does business? I've long heard that Brother Lui takes good care of Shin Manzi. It seems like it's true. It must be because of Shin Manzi's charm that Brother Lui is depressed under the bed. That's why Brother Lui takes good care of him. I've heard that there are many people who take care of Wanshi Shu. No one laughed. You can take care of Shin Manzi too as long as Wanshi Shu is willing. Crash. The sound of a wine jar being intact sounded, followed by an angry shout, "Geng Lui, he dares to hit you. Hit me." In an instant, the courtyard next door was in a mess. Boss Shun and the others who had been paying attention to the commotion immediately stood up, and each of them rushed over like lightning. Spiritual Power, Xiao Xinghe and Lin Yinxiu also followed closely behind. Looking over, Wanshi Shu and the others' eyes almost popped out of their sockets, because Geng Lui was surrounded by more than 10 people and was being beaten up. Although I'm a body cultivator and my physique is weak, in that kind of situation, 2 fists are no match for 7 hands, and I was beaten to a sorry state. Beat us up. Boss Shin roared, and a few members of the A8 team rushed up the mountain like fierce tigers and joined in the fight. Wanshi Shu didn't expect that drinking wine could actually cause such a thing, but since things had already come to this, there was no way he could just stand by and watch, so he also rushed down. "Don't use Martial King." Geng Lui shouted, mainly because he was afraid of using Martial King, but he was worried about the others. Grand Sky City's rules were strict and fights like this would happen on a regular basis, but there were always exceptions, especially for a group of hot-blooded cultivators, so it was inevitable that there would be some disputes. If Martial King was used, it would still be fine as there would always be deaths. However, if Wanshi Shu was used, there would really be a way to clean up the situation, and once someone died, no one would be able to step up. Thus, in Grand Sky City, even if there were no disputes, there would still be Wanshi Shu and spirit tools used, and it would just be a simple brawl. In that kind of situation, body cultivators had a small advantage because our physiques were weak enough. The group of people had just drunk a lot of wine and were slightly tipsy. That kind of state was the most difficult to be impulsive, and with the people in the courtyard next door unintentionally provoking them, a fight naturally occurred. Gung Luye's situation was good. After all, after everyone came, I was surrounded by more than 10 people from 2 teams, and everyone came down to help. Just as my spiritual power landed on my body, and I was about to rush down, a figure flashed behind me, and a young man with a weak physique blocked my path. Without saying anything, he reached out to grab me. That attack seemed to have been prepared for a long time, and Wan Shirshu was already on guard, so he was caught by the young man's shoulder. Immediately after, a burst of pain came from my shoulder, and the young man used his small hand to suppress Ling Li's body, and fiercely kicked towards my chest. Although that kick didn't use any Wan Shirshu with the support of the young body cultivator's weak physique, it was still weak. Taking that kind of kick, I would definitely be heavily injured. However, I had overestimated Ling Li's reaction speed, and facing that kind of attack, Ling Li also raised his leg, ferociously kicking out. With a bang, both of their figures shook violently. Their spiritual power only shook a little, but the young man took a few steps forward before stabilizing his body. He only felt that one of his legs was a little numb. His eyes were filled with bewilderment, and he never thought that Wan Shirshu, who was shorter than him by a head, wouldn't be able to surpass him in terms of pure physical strength. Just as the young man steadied himself, a tiger's roar sounded. In his field of vision, Hupa, which was the size of a cat, slowly shrank, and in the blink of an eye, it turned into a fierce beast, opening its bloody mouth and biting towards me. The young man was startled. Hurriedly dodging to the side, he narrowly avoided Hupo's attack. In that kind of battle, the deterrence brought by such a ferocious demonic commander-level Yao beast was extremely impressive. Hupa swept out from my side, and its sharp claws swiped past, taking away a piece of flesh from the young man's lower body. However, I didn't seem to feel it because, taking advantage of my moment of distraction, Ling Li had already rushed to my back and punched out. That punch was an explosion of Ling Li's entire body's strength, and when he punched out, the fist's edge was shockingly unbridled. The young man's eyes narrowed, and he faintly felt that it was too wonderful, but at that moment I could already dodge, so I could only meet it with a punch of my own. When the two fists collided, the young man's face trembled violently, and he felt as if he was facing a mountain instead of a fist. Once again his body was forced to move forward, and his Ling Li was relentless, closing in on me step by step. He punched and kicked me to his heart's content. Hupa turned around from nearby. He wanted to help, but when he saw that he was at a disadvantage in terms of spiritual power, he turned around and retreated into the chaos of battle. Gung Luyi and the others had more people on their side, and in that kind of battle they were at a disadvantage. Without Hupo's participation, the situation immediately became much better. The Ling Li's punches landed squarely on his flesh, and the young man grimaced in pain, but he couldn't take it anymore. Following another punch from his Ling Li, his blood chi and martial king burst forth, turning into a defensive barrier. The other party was using his martial king, and his Ling Li was able to sense the other party's depth. Once the martial king moved, the other party's cultivation could be seen clearly. Impressively, he was a true Lake Fourth Order cultivator. Sensing the other party's cultivation and Ling Li furrowed his brows, and suddenly, he felt that something was off. The other party's cultivation was so low, so why was he intercepting him? Thinking back to the scene where the other party attacked him, Ling Li had a feeling that the other party was purposely looking for him. At that moment he had the time to ponder. The other party was using his martial king, so naturally Ling Li would be more polite. In an instant, his fist turned into a palm, and with the support of the sharpness spirit mark, he chopped down with his palm. The defensive barrier formed by his blood chi and martial king was instantly completed, and heavily smashed into the other party's body. The young man groaned, and his face revealed a pained expression. Chapter 977. In the courtyard, nearly 20 true Lake Realm cultivators were fighting fiercely. Tables and pavilions were broken, and wine and food were scattered all over the floor. It was a chaotic scene. Shen Manzi tried her best to persuade them, but no one would listen to her at this time. They all ignored her words and focused on beating their opponents. The huge commotion here naturally alerted many cultivators in the front hall, and they all ran over to watch. It was rare to see such a scene in vast Sky City. Everyone was amazed and watched with great interest. "Lady Boss, what should we do?" a waiter from the 100 Fragrances house asked. Shen Manzi's skirt fluttered as she quietly kicked a member of the A5 team back into the battle. She sighed faintly, "Report this to the law division." She couldn't stop it, but she couldn't just watch the situation worsen either. After all, this happened in her territory. The two groups of people were still restraining themselves. Except for Lu Yi and the Ninth Order youth who occasionally used their spirit chi, the others didn't show any signs of using their spirit chi. However, if they continued to fight like this, no one could guarantee how things would develop. If someone was really killed, the two groups of people involved in the fight wouldn't have a good ending. As soon as Shin Manzi's voice fell, the pressure of a Spirit Sea Realm cultivator suddenly rose from somewhere in vast Sky City and quickly swept over here. There were already people who were waiting to watch the show and reported it to the Law Division. The pressure was so strong that it rose from the main hall of the Law Division. In just a few breaths, it arrived above the 100 Fragrances house and revealed itself. It was Gan Wudong. At the same time, divine senses spread out from all over vast Sky City and gathered here. Obviously, they were alerted by Gan Wudong and didn't know what was going on. They used their divine senses to investigate the situation. After noticing the dispute here, all the Spirit Sea Realm cultivators were stunned. They never thought that such a thing would happen in vast Sky City. However, this was an internal matter of the Law Division, so these Spirit Sea Realm cultivators didn't plan to show themselves. They just waited for Gan Wudong to deal with it himself. Looking down from above, Gan Wudong's face twitched slightly and he shouted, "Everyone stop!" As he spoke, his aura spread out and an invisible pressure fell from the sky. The many cultivators who had come to watch the show fell down like dumplings as they cried out in alarm. They were only affected by the aftershocks. The people fighting in the courtyard were the ones who were targeted. They all felt the pressure and couldn't breathe. The chaotic scene was frozen. King Gungwu's face was bruised and swollen. He was in a defensive posture. He was the strongest in the A3 team, so he was surrounded by several people. Xiao Ryun was lying on the ground, his legs were like locks, locking onto the waist of an opponent. His hands were clasped on the opponent's cheeks, his thumbs were pressing on the opponent's eyes, looking like he was going to gouge out the opponent's eyeballs. That opponent's expression was grimacing, obviously not feeling too good. Gung gung gung. Gung gung gung. Sheng Guanxiu was the one who was beaten. It could not be helped. A spell cultivator's body was relatively weak and could not gain any advantage in such a battle. His eyebrows were cracked and blood flowed down his cheeks. Xiao Xinghe's clothes were ragged, and the two opponents beside him were eyeing him covetously. It was obvious that they were at a disadvantage. Lin Yinxiu, Mu Zheng, and the three female cultivators were facing each other with a distance of a few feet between them. The women's hair was disheveled and they were panting heavily. It was obvious that they had fought for a while. On Lu Ye's side, he was riding atop the Ninth Order young man who was holding his head with both hands, preparing to defend himself against Lu Ye's fierce attacks before Gan Wudang arrived. There was also Hu Pe, whose bloody mouth was wide open and sucked on a cultivator's head. Only the cultivator's body was exposed. At first glance, Hu Pe seemed to be eating the cultivator. The scene was horrifying. Qian Wudong glanced around and fixed his eyes on Lin Yinxiu for a second. Looking at Lin Yinxiu's messy hair, his heart ached so much that he almost couldn't breathe. When she was by her side, although Yinxiu was a little mischievous, she would not do such an unsightly thing. She had only been with Lu Ye for a few days. How could she fight like a shrew? Qian Wudong's anger surged and the pressure in the field intensified. The group of people didn't even dare to breathe loudly. After a while, Qian Wudong coldly shouted, "Stand still." Following his order, the cultivators in the yard all stood up straight, leaving their opponents behind. Only Hu Pe innocently spat out the opponent in his mouth. He then transformed into the size of a cat and quietly slipped to the side. The cultivator he spat out had a face full of saliva, looking like he had nothing left to live for. "Team leaders, step forward." Qian Wudong shouted again. King Gungwu and Lu Yi took a step forward with their heads held high. On the other side, the Ninth Order young man and another person also took a step forward. Qian Wudong was so angry that he laughed. With his hands behind his back, he took the lead and said, "King Gungwu, Lu Ye, Zhou Kuei, Zhang Qing, the four of you are doing a good job as team leaders. You actually led your team members to a brawl here." Lu Yi, who was standing beside King Gungwu, couldn't help but change his expression slightly. King Gungwu held his head high and replied in a deep voice, "Sir, you misunderstood. We were just gathering here to drink, and when we were drunk, we decided to have a spar. We didn't expect to cause such a disturbance and disturb sir. Please forgive us, sir." Lu Yi, Zhou Kuei, and Zhang Qing understood tacitly and said in unison, "It was just a spar. No matter how they fought just now, they had to have the same attitude now. Do you think this king is blind or stupid? A spar? Qian Wudong was furious. What kind of spar is this? Look at how many things you have destroyed. Look at your own injuries and you still have the face to talk to me about a spar? King Gungwu shrunk his neck and said weakly, "It is the truth." Qian Wudong glared at him and King Gungwu immediately shut up. He knew that this matter was too big and had attracted the attention of many Spirit Sea Realm cultivators. Even if Qian Wudong wanted to make a big deal out of it, he couldn't. As members of the law enforcement department, you were drinking and causing trouble here. King Gungwu, what do you think should be punished? Qian Wudong asked. King Gungwu straightened his neck and said, I will go to the prison to receive my punishment. However, I am the cause of today's incident. It has nothing to do with anyone else. Please forgive me and let me take all the blame. You want to take all the blame? Qian Wudong looked at him angrily and said, You don't have the ability to participate in today's incident. Go to the prison. 10 whips for the captains and 5 whips for the others. This is a small punishment and a big warning. If you dare to do it again, you will not be let off lightly. As soon as Qian Wudong said that, many cultivators in the yard trembled. Lu Yi couldn't help but grimace. He had tasted the defiant dragon thorn before and it didn't feel good. Get out of here. Qian Wudong shouted angrily. He had never been so angry in his life. What happened to the law enforcement department under his jurisdiction was a disgrace to himself. Under the watchful eyes of so many Spirit Sea Realm cultivators, he had to give an explanation no matter what. This punishment was the best he could come up with. With this order, all of them flashed out and rushed towards the punishment prison in a flurry. However, they didn't possess the passion and hot-bloodedness they had during the battle from before, and all of them lowered their brows and looked around. Especially the few female cultivators, their countenances were slightly pale. Even if they hadn't personally experienced the power of the defiant dragon thorn, they had heard about it. No one knew if they could withstand 5 whips. What are you looking at? Go away. Qian Wudong turned around and shouted at the cultivators who were watching the show. He was angry to see everyone today. He waved his sleeves and rushed to the prison. At the entrance of the prison, the cultivators on duty looked at the cultivators from the law enforcement department with a smile. Although the 100 Fragrances house was not close to the prison, Qian Wudong's shout had spread across the entire city. Therefore, even if they stayed here, they knew what had happened. They felt that today was an eye-opener. They had never seen so many people come to the prison to receive their punishment. Like a hospitable host, he led the group of people in with enthusiasm. Qian Wudong followed him into the prison. As they went deeper, the gloomy and dark environment became more and more creepy. Thinking about the torture they would be subjected to later, the group of people shivered. Now you regret it. What were you doing before? Qian Wudong, who had walked to the front, snorted. No one said anything. Soon they arrived at the punishment area. The one-eyed wolf, who was in charge of the punishment, was drinking. Sensing Qian Wudong's breath, he hurriedly stood up to greet him. Then he looked at the large group of people behind Qian Wudong and couldn't help being surprised. Minister, they made a mistake and are here to be punished. Qian Wudong turned around and looked at them with an exasperated expression. Those who were looked at by him all lowered their heads. So many. The one-eyed wolf was a little surprised. I'm going to be tired today. As he said this, he slowly walked to the place where the defiant dragon thorn was placed. He took the defiant dragon thorn and whipped it. With a thunder-like sound, it exploded. The whip seemed to have hit the group of people and many of them trembled. 4 people who will go first? Qian Wudong looked at Lu Yi and the others who were standing at the front. He stood aside with his hands behind his back. It was obvious that he was personally supervising the punishment. Lu Yi turned around and gave King Jianghu a look. King Jianghu understood, and in the next moment, both of them took a step back. The one called Zhang Qing also reacted and hurriedly stepped back. It was unknown who started it, but the group of people behind him burst into laughter. The solemn and tense atmosphere lightened up quite a bit. Zhou Kuei was left standing alone in the same place. You guys. Good job. Qian Wudong praised with a fake smile. Then Zhou Kuei, you go first. My lord, I'm not. Cut the crap. Qian Wudong grabbed Zhou Kuei and threw him under the rack. You'll be punished no matter what. The sooner you die, the sooner you can be reincarnated. Chapter 978. The one-eyed wolf was ready. It held the dragon thorn and walked to the side. It looked at Zhou Kuei and asked, Do you want me to tie you up or do you want to hold on tightly? There were magic ropes on both sides of the scaffold for restraining the torturer, mainly for fear that the torturer would faint. If he was tied up, he would not fall down even if he fainted. Of course, he could hold on tightly without being tied up. Zhou Kuei was a brave man. He knew that he could not avoid this punishment, so he gritted his teeth and said, "No need to tie me up." He was an individual cultivator with a strong body. Although he had heard of the dragon thorn, he was confident that he could withstand such a punishment. Saying so, he stepped forward and took off his shirt, revealing his strong body. He grabbed the magic ropes on both sides of the scaffold and gritted his teeth. "Come on." Seeing him like this, the members of A5 cheered him on. "Captain, hold on." "No problem." Zhou Kuei snorted. "Then you have to hold on." The one-eyed wolf walked behind Zhou Kuei, grabbed the wine gourd and drank a mouthful of wine. It sprayed the wine on the dragon thorn and whipped down. With a loud smack, blood splattered out from Zhou Kuei's back, and even a piece of flesh was exposed. Zhou Kuei's whole body stiffened as if he had been struck by lightning. His head was raised high and his eyes were wide open, almost popping out of their sockets. His eyeballs were instantly covered with blood vessels, and his expression became extremely ferocious and horrible. After maintaining this posture for a full 3 breaths of time, an earth-shattering scream came from Zhou Kuei's mouth. He realized that he had overestimated the power of the reverse martial king. That thing must have only caused damage to the physical body, which he could still withstand. The key was that the spiritual treasure not only attacked the physical body, but also the divine soul. When the whip lashed out, he felt that his divine soul was about to be torn apart. All of the law enforcement hall cultivators who saw this scene had solemn expressions on their faces. Seeing the reaction of the dragon thorn before being tortured, they realized the horror of the reverse martial king. They thought that they would be whipped by that thing later. They were trembling. Pa! Another whip fell on the ground. The one-eyed wolf was punishing the boy outside, so it naturally knew how to make it more painful and how to extend the pain to the extreme. For someone as confident as Dragon Thorn, 1 whip every 7 breaths was the best rhythm. Bai Yu's screams came to an abrupt end. She held her breath for a while before she screamed again. Clap, clap, clap. The one-eyed wolf turned a deaf ear to him and punished him according to its own rhythm. After several lashes, Dragon Thorn suddenly fell to the ground. He had already fainted. Although he was unconscious, his body was still twitching. "Captain?" The members of Team A7 cried out in alarm. The others didn't feel the same way. Even a body cultivator like Bai Yu could only withstand a few whips before fainting. Among the people present, there were a few whose physiques were comparable to Dragonthorn, so who could withstand it? "I still have to tie him up." Seeing this, Lone Wolf lifted Dragonthorn up and swiftly tied my hands under the rack. My whole body was hung up. However, I didn't continue the punishment. Instead, I walked behind Dragonthorn and drank a mouthful of wine. Then I spat it all on my face. Since it was a punishment, it naturally had to be carried out when the person being punished was still unconscious. Otherwise the effect would be reduced. "Look at Hanhu with your small eyes," Chen Yudang suddenly shouted. However, no one could bear to look away from Dragonthorn's miserable state. They were probably afraid that he wouldn't be traumatized. After all, no one could escape from King An Wu's cruel beating. Bai Yu, who was in a coma, slowly woke up. "Can you still withstand it?" the one-eyed wolf asked. Dragonthorn gritted his teeth. "Come." Almost as soon as Dragonthorn finished speaking, the whip lashed out again, and Dragonthorn's voice turned into a blood-curdling scream. After a while, the 10 whips finally ended. The group of people felt relieved as if they were the ones being punished. Only then did we understand the cruelty of the punishment prison. In this kind of situation, even if we only watched other people being punished, this bitter scene was enough to be engraved in our minds for the rest of our lives. If something happened again last time, if we dared to violate the way law again, come. 7 more whips. Dragonthorn's body was almost soaked with sweat, and there was a lake of blood and flesh in front of his back, but he still gritted his teeth. Chen Yudeng laughed. "What? Are you addicted to being punished? De Ling is a man, so he should be punished in front of the crowd. I will take the punishment for you. Please allow me to do so," Dragonthorn said. De Ling was the male practitioner in my team. Hearing this, Zhang Cheng's face turned pale instantly. With me there was only 1 male practitioner in Dragonthorn's team, but there were only 2 in my team. In other words, I definitely had to take the punishment for someone. There were 70 whips which could kill someone. Aloud, Chen Yudang said and winked at the one-eyed wolf. After another 7 whips, Bai Yu was released. The male practitioner called De Ling quickly got down and helped me back. Even though Dragonthorn was an individual practitioner, he didn't feel weak at the moment. Zhang Qing was still thinking about the 70 whips, but Zhou Kuei and Geng Xiaoling stretched out their hands and held my arms. With a little force they threw me on top of the punishment rack. Qian Yudeng laughed heartily. I can see that your men are very enthusiastic about being punished. Since that's the case, One-Eyed Wolf, please satisfy me. The One-Eyed Wolf nodded seriously. Master, I have spoken. If there is a problem, please. Yes, you. Zhang Qing couldn't defend himself. He turned his head and glared at Zhou Kuei and Geng Xiaoling. You are finished with them. Geng Xiaoling looked up at the sky while Zhou Kuei looked down at his feet. They both had an expression that said it was none of your business. Zhang Qing's cultivation was higher than Baiyu's, and his body was even stronger than mine. After the punishment he fainted 8 times. When the 17th whips came, Zhang Qing was completely awake. The One-Eyed Wolf even spat out wine to wake me up. Master, if you continue, I'm afraid he will die. The One-Eyed Wolf looked at Qian Yudeng. Qian Yudeng really wanted to beat someone to death. He only wanted to use this punishment to teach those people a lesson. He opened his mouth and said, remember these 7 whips first. When my injuries are healed, call me back to receive double the punishment. The members of Team D1 felt as if they had been pardoned and hurriedly carried their captain up. You do it. Geng Xiaoling stepped down. Baiyu also wanted to compete with me. There was no need to compete. Anyway, she would experience it sooner or later. After getting down, she took off her clothes and grabbed the rope under the punishment rack to stabilize her body. Tan Tan said, Mujing's 7 whips, I will take it for you. A moment ago, Geng Xiaoling was punished. Among the 8 people who were tortured, my performance was the best. Although I screamed, I didn't faint and even walked back on my own. However, when she saw the bloody scene in front of me, where my bones could almost be seen, Mujing held back her tears. Out of the 7 captains, 8 were dealt with, leaving only Zhou Kuei. I took off the Scarlet Dragon battle armor and exposed my lower body. Quietly I walked to the torture rack. My eyebrows drooped and my eyes drooped. Qian Yudeng coughed heavily. Wuxia, after the punishment, do you have anything to say? Zhou Kuei thought for a moment and said, today's matter, you are not wrong. Master, you are a lowly person. We should imitate you and remember you. That's it? Qian Yudeng stared at me. Zhou Kuei calmly looked back at him. Qian Yudeng's eyes flashed with a hint of pleading. Only then did Zhou Kuei realize, oh right. You will take Lin Yinxiu's 7 whips for you. Qian Yudeng breathed a sigh of relief. He didn't know that the big guy was deliberately teasing him. But there was nothing he could do. Start the punishment, Qian Yudeng said. The One-Eyed Wolf immediately lashed out with its whip. Zhou Kuei only felt a burning pain on his back as if he had been struck by lightning. But he almost didn't feel the pain of his soul the next time. In my perception, the moment the Reverse Martial King lashed out, an invisible impact spread toward the deity's lake. But it was blocked by the double Dragon Sea protection. In the deity's lake it was fierce. Before I could react, I screamed out loud. My scream was even more miserable than the other 8 people. Pa pa pa. There was no rhythm to the lashing and Zhou Kuei's screams were getting lower and lower. But what surprised everyone was that although Zhou Kuei screamed miserably, he didn't show any signs of fainting. Baiyu was the one who was about to faint. The One-Eyed Wolf's way of waking up the prisoners was to spit a mouthful of wine in their faces. I was willing to try it. After 17 lashes, Zhou Kuei grimaced in pain. His back was seriously injured, but his condition was much better than the other 8 people. Qian Yudeng frowned slightly and looked at the One-Eyed Wolf. It seemed that even if he was merciful because of Yinxiu, it was so obvious. The One-Eyed Wolf deserved it. Compared with the punishments of the other people, I was merciful, but I knew what I was doing. In my opinion, Zhou Kuei should have fainted at least 2 or 8 times after receiving 17 lashes. But Zhou Kuei kept his body in the lake. Recalling the next punishment of Zhou Kuei, the One-Eyed Wolf was more certain that the big guy named Wuxia's divine soul was more tenacious than other people's. Otherwise, he could have withstood the power of the Reverse Martial King. The 7 captains had been punished. They sat aside and took elixirs to heal their wounds silently. But they were still separated. Zhou Kuei and Geng Biue were in the same group. Dragon Thorn and Zhang Qing were in the same group. All that was left were their respective team members. The One-Eyed Wolf slowed down the punishment of its team members. When they were whipped one by one, they were all beaten badly. Many of them fainted on the spot. It wasn't until less than an hour ago that the punishment began. Except for a few male cultivators who were intact, the rest of the young cultivators who were sent to the prison were all injured. Zhang Qing was the most miserable one. He was punished with 7 lashes. Every time he thought about it, he was in so much pain that he almost died. Chen Yudang looked at the group of soldiers under his command who were sucking in hot breaths and suppressing their pain. He said resentfully, as members of the law enforcement hall, they should lead by example. This is only their first offense. I will punish them accordingly. Do they accept this? Who dared to accept it? If there is no next time, I will punish them myself. Chen Yudang said and waved his hand. Get out. Chapter 979. A group of bare-chested men walked through the dark tunnel and stepped out of the prison. The sun was high up in the sky, and the bone-chilling coldness dissipated a lot. They couldn't help but feel like they had just escaped death. This experience was destined to be remembered by many for the rest of their lives. They would definitely stay away from this damn place. Zhou Kuei and Zhang Cheng led their team members and quickly left. Before leaving, Zhou Kuei didn't forget to glare at Lu Yi. Yi, I've implicated you this time. King Gongwu said. Lu Yi looked at the direction Zhou Kuei left and slowly shook his head. I still don't know who implicated who. What do you mean? King Gongwu was puzzled. That Zhou Kuei should be after me. I went to his Zhou clan 2 days ago and captured someone. Lu Yi explained. Originally, he also thought that the cause of this incident was because King Gongwu couldn't control his temper and caused a conflict between several teams. But when Lu Yi found out that the guy he fought was called Zhou Kuei, some things that he didn't understand suddenly became clear. When the conflict broke out, he rushed to help, but Zhou Kuei stopped him immediately. At that time, Lu Yi felt that something was wrong. This guy was a 9th order true Lake Realm body cultivator, so it didn't make sense for him to target him. In that situation he should be watching King Gongwu. But if this person was called Zhou Kuei, then there was nothing wrong. When he captured Zhou Wang in the Zhou family, the Foreign Affairs elder Zhou Zhe had mentioned Zhou Kuei's name to him. He probably wanted him to give him some face and let Lu Yi go. However, how could Zhou Kuei possibly know a martial king? Yes, he had accepted Zhou Zhe's gifts. Furthermore, he had barged into the Zhou clan's manor and taken He Bai under the noses of the Zhou clan's cultivators. The news must have reached He Bai's ears. Then today's incident wouldn't have happened. Maybe the original conflict between us and the 8th AA team was part of the trigger. But this King Gongwu definitely wanted to take the opportunity to teach me a lesson and vent his anger. It's just that I didn't think that I would be able to beat me in a contest of physique. In the end, I was taught a lesson, but I was taught a lesson instead. Geng Zhouwang knew that there were no twists and turns here. Hearing Zhou Kuei's words, he grinned and said, anyway, it's not like that. Who cares who is implicated? After all, we suffer together. Let's go to the clinic to heal. There were no medical cultivators in the law enforcement hall's team. Because there were relatively more medical cultivators, there was a way to ensure that every team had a medical cultivator. Therefore there was no clinic. If the cultivators coming and going to Vast Sky City were not injured, they could go to the medical hall for treatment. All the expenses would be borne by the state guards. In addition, when the medical cultivators treated the injuries of the soldiers, they could not be punished with military merits. He Bai of course knew about the medical center, but she had been there before. She heard that there were only a few beautiful medical cultivators from different sects in the military province. Of course, there were no female medical cultivators either. As for the medical center, it belonged to the Medical Affairs Division. The Medical Affairs Division was the department that managed and deployed all of the medical cultivators that the State Guard didn't have. The medical cultivators overseeing the various small mountain passes at the rear were all under the Medical Affairs Division's direct jurisdiction. Under the guidance of Geng Zhouwang, a group of people came to the medical center. There were a lot of cultivators coming and going. Cultivators had to fight in the city, so it was normal for them to be injured. Even if their injuries were healed, there might be some hidden diseases left. Naturally, they had to go in and out of the medical center often, either to heal their injuries or to adjust their body's hidden diseases. The medical cultivators in the medical center found it strange. After leaving the medical center and showing their guards badges, no one came to settle them down in the big rooms and wait for treatment. Zhou Kuei crouched under the bed, revealing his bloody back. Brother Lu sat beside him and asked with concern, "Captain, does it hurt?" Of course. Zhou Kuei was annoyed. For the first time, he found that it was not a good thing that there were no male cultivators in the team. Even if it was something else, he would suffer less from the defiant dragon thorn. Brother Lu stuck out his tongue and said, "Don't take the punishment for him this time. You can do it yourself." He Bai didn't want to talk to him. Chen Yudang was right next to them. How dare I take the punishment for Brother Lu? Besides, it was reasonable for a man to be punished like this. The women's backs were all bloody. If a man went down, according to the one-eyed wolf's ruthlessness, he would be merciful. As they were talking, the door was pushed open. A male cultivator came in and bowed to He Bai. "Greetings, senior fellow apprentice. I, Lin Yinxiu from the medical department, was ordered to come here to treat you." Zhou Kuei raised his head quickly and looked down. A face that he hadn't seen for a long time appeared in his eyes. The man saw He Bai's face and was surprised. "You Xiao Dai? Sister you?" Zhou Kuei also smiled. "It's really a small world. I didn't expect to see him outside." The man called himself Lin Yinxiu, and it was the Lin Yinxiu that Zhou Kuei knew. It had been a few years since they parted in the Evil Moon Valley. Both of them had just been rescued by the Grand Sky Alliance. One had only opened one aperture while the other had opened two apertures. Now one was at the True Lake Seventh Order while the other was at the True Lake Realm. As for which Cloud River realm they were at, Zhou Kuei couldn't tell at the moment. A few years had passed and the changes were very small. Lin Yinxiu obviously realized that the person who came to treat was not Zhou Kuei. She seemed to be very useful. "Why is Yu Xiaodai in Grand Sky City?" Before she finished asking, she reacted. "We said that there were not many teams fighting in the Law Division. As a result, they were all taken to the punishment prison to be punished. Yu Xiaodai was also, you are also one of them." He Bai sighed secretly. It was true that good news spread far and wide. Even a place like the medical department didn't hear about it. Presumably, the whole Grand Sky City knew about it. It must be these people. Lin Yinxiu was annoyed. Yes, He Bai Liang is really amazing. He didn't even join the Law Division. You heard people say that being in the Law Division is very prestigious. Zhou Kuei didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Sure enough, men didn't pay too much attention to the same things. He opened his mouth and said, "Being awe-inspiring is awe-inspiring, but it's too much. Doing things that offend people is difficult to bear grudges against." This is related. If he was injured last time, he would come to the medical department to find you. You can treat him. The two chatted, and Big Brother Lu, who was watching the show, suddenly said, "Junior sister, if you continue to treat Captain, my blood will run dry." Lin Yinxiu exclaimed and apologized with a red face. "Yes, He Bai Liang, you forgot." Saying so, she quickly sat by the bed and took out some healing materials from her storage bag to treat Zhou Kuei. "You remember that junior sister joined the 100-Flower Valley?" Zhou Kuei asked casually. "Back in the Evil Moon Valley, I went against Pang Xiaohai's suggestion and chose the Blue Blood sect. Lin Yinxiu chose the 100-Flower Valley." "Yes," Lin Yinxiu replied. Lin Yinxiu replied, "You haven't heard much about Yu Xiaodai in the past few years. Many of the senior and junior sisters in the valley worship Yu Xiaodai very much. When you know that you know He Bai Liang, you are very envious." What he heard was also a good thing. Zhou Kuei smiled. "That's right. You only heard about how powerful Yu Xiaodai was. Even now, his nickname is still circulating in the Spirit Stream battlefield. There are also few stories about him in the Cloud River battlefield." She paused and said, "Yu Xiaodai must have had a hard time in those years, right?" Others only saw the glory in Zhou Kuei's name, but it was hard to imagine the bitterness and hardships behind it. Lin Yinxiu's thoughts were obviously too similar to others. When you heard these inspiring stories, you could imagine what kind of good environment Zhou Kuei had been in. "It was okay," Zhou Kuei answered casually. "The hardships were gone, but the rewards were less." Lin Yinxiu treated Zhou Kuei while chatting with me casually. She was obviously in a bad mood. Brother Lu sat quietly to the side and also interjected. "Half an hour ago, Lin Yinxiu said, Yu Xiaodia's body is weak. His injuries look light, but they aren't minor. He'll be fine after 2 days to change his medicine." Zhou Kuei got up and moved his muscles. He felt depressed and praised, "Junior sister's skills are good." He Bai Liang smiled sweetly. "Medical cultivators can only help them do that. It's fine as long as Yu Xiaodai doesn't like it." After a pause, you opened your mouth and said, "For those like Yu Xiaodai who is constantly on the move and often fights with others, his body may not have some hidden injuries. If he comes to the medical hall to find you one day when he is free, you can introduce him to a true lake stage senior martial sister so that you can help him treat his hidden injuries." "Okay," Zhou Kuei answered cheerfully and put on his clothes. After a while he led He Bai Liang out. In the inner corridor, 8th senior brother was waiting. The 8 people gathered. After bidding farewell to Lin Yinxiu, they flew towards the courtyard. Just as they landed in the courtyard, they saw the chief's figure. Hupa and Yi were also waiting there. Before Qian Yudang appeared, Hupa had already slipped away. Qian Yudang only saw him. He could always punish a monster. Among those who didn't participate in the fight, only Hoopa didn't escape. One tribulation. The 8 people quickly bowed. The chief looked at the 2. Did you suffer? Zhou Kuei said, 8th senior brother suffered a big loss. You fought back. The chief nodded with satisfaction. It's fine as long as you're injured. Rest well for the next few days. You'll have to run around. Yes. The chief didn't come to see the 2. Seeing that they had something to do, he left. Yi quickly came down and asked with concern. Zhou Kuei naturally said that he had something to do. He didn't want to make her worry. The next few days were very exciting. Zhou Kuei's injuries recovered very slowly. After all, without the foundation of the broken origin of the dragon soaring realm, his vitality was strong. No matter how light the injuries caused by the defiant dragon thorn were, they were only flesh wounds. When the one-eyed wolf punished them, it would hurt the muscles and bones of Hebai and the others. During this period, Hebai went to the medical hall to change his medicine. He also knew that it was Lin Yinxiu who spread the news of his small name, which attracted the young medical practitioners to come and watch. It was very cold. The monthly salary for that month was paid. He also handed over the explosive fire spirit stones that were less than the next time. The few battle merits that he had left were finally replenished. Zhou Kuei immediately went to buy a tracking disc as a backup. He was going to use it to carry out missions again? If he used the tracking disc to carry out missions like this, the cost would be too low. It was a long-term plan. Chapter 980. During his recuperation period, Lu Yi had nothing else to do other than imprinting the soaring dragon realm's source. Other cultivators spent more than half of their life on cultivation. Their powerful cultivation was accumulated bit by bit in this kind of boring and silent cultivation. Only in this way could they have the enviable glory and glory of others. Lu Yi had just advanced from the 3rd order True Lake realm to the 5th order True Lake realm, so he didn't plan to increase his cultivation for the time being. The main reason was that it wasn't always a good thing to increase one's cultivation too quickly, as it would cause one's foundation to be unstable. His foundation would be firmer if he spent more time in his current realm. After another imprinting of the soaring dragon realm source, Lu Yi slowly opened his eyes and examined his gains. A moment later he turned his head to look. Hoopa was lying on the side, snoring loudly. Looking at his posture, he should have eaten a monster core. A golden vortex spun in front of Yi, and pure and rich spirit energy poured out of it for her to refine and absorb. Ever since Lu Yi obtained the Stealing Heaven's secret cultivation method, Yi felt a sense of crisis because Lu Ye's growth speed had increased again, and it was ridiculously fast. Originally, when she cultivated with Hoopa, she could barely keep up with Lu Ye's pace. However, after Lu Yi advanced to the True Lake realm, the gap between them grew bigger and bigger. So these days, whenever she had free time, she would cultivate. This little girl had a secret stash of money. She had her own battlefield imprint, so naturally she had her own merits and battle achievements. She could use all the cultivation methods that cultivators could use. Seeing that Yi was cultivating seriously, Lu Yi didn't disturb her and tiptoed out of the door. The courtyard was quiet and only half a figure could be seen. Xiao Xinghe and Lin Yinxiu's doors were tightly shut, and it seemed that they were cultivating. His spirit energy rushed to the sky and prepared to pay a visit to the sect master. However, when he reached the sect master's courtyard, he saw the old man's figure. The sect master had recovered and was now in the elder group. Naturally, he wasn't as leisurely as before. Standing in the sect master's courtyard, his spirit energy was suddenly at a loss. Then why did he suddenly have something to do? He had to find something to do. How could he be so leisurely for so many years? His spirit energy pondered for a while and didn't have any ideas. He hurriedly rushed back to his courtyard, found an empty room and left. He sat down cross-legged, immersed his mind and observed the talent tree. Now the talent tree had begun to show its scale. Small pieces of leaves were burning under the tree, especially the piece where the fire phoenix's land leaf was. At first glance, it looked as if there was a beautiful fire phoenix squatting under the branches. Up until now, Lu Yi had not activated nearly 70 of the talent tree's leaves. Every single one of them was of great use to spiritual energy. They were either used for cultivation, battle, or support. It can't be said that I didn't have the achievements I have today, but I did have the innate tree technique. I have practically memorized all the land leaves by heart, and I also know the uses of almost all the land leaves. Apart from a little bit of Ling Shi because there was no target for her to use it on, I only have one other land leaf left, which I know the use of Changqian. He immersed his mind and observed where Lu Yi was under the talent tree. Twin lotus flowers on a stalk. Before Lu Yi had activated that land leaf, his spirit energy had used it a long time ago, but it didn't have any effect. Just like now, with a thought from Fanya, the land leaf of the twin lotus flower appeared in his palm. However, other than looking like a lotus flower, there was nothing ordinary about it. Perhaps that land leaf was meant to be used under him? Just like the rainbow phoenixes flying together, this was a land leaf that required two people to activate. With that thought in mind, his spiritual energy returned to his room and pulled out Hoopa, who was snoring away. Hoopa was still sleeping soundly. It wasn't that it was alert enough, but that it could sense Fanya's aura even in its sleep, so it naturally didn't wake up. If it was someone familiar with Hoopa, they would have startled it if they got close. Bringing Hoopa back, his spirit energy pressed one hand on Hoopa's head and activated the spirit pattern, forming the twin lotus flower under him. Spirit light shone brightly, and the shape of a lotus flower immediately appeared under Hoopa's head. It was still effective. Hoopa didn't react at all, and his spirit energy didn't feel anything either. From the looks of it, his previous thought was wrong. That land leaf was meant to be used under someone else's body. It was effective under his body, and it was also effective under someone else's body. Where else could it be used? It was more reliable to use it to set up a formation or to strengthen the Pan Mountain blade. Spirit energy frowned and thought hard. How long had it been? A cowardly idea suddenly popped up in my mind. With a thought, the spirit pattern surged, and the yin-yang 7 elements quickly climbed onto the surface of my body, tightly wrapping around my entire body. My body swayed, and immediately, a figure that looked exactly like me appeared beside me. It was as if a layer of underwear had been taken off. Just like my main body, it also maintained a cross-legged posture. Shadow clone. Lu Yi had used his spirit energy when he was being chased by Lu Yueme, and it played a big role, causing Lu Yueme to mistake it for a low-level shadow clone technique. In actuality, it was just a shadow created using spirit patterns. Because it didn't have the support of spirit patterns, it could only be maintained for a short period of time. Furthermore, with the resplendent spiritual light, it was very difficult to distinguish the real from the fake. Thus, it couldn't be used to confuse the enemy's line of sight and thus buy time for himself to escape. Of course, it was also wrong to use it in battle. When the battle was intense, the sudden appearance of a shadow clone would definitely play a miraculous role, causing the enemy to be on guard. Until now, this was the first time spirit energy had encountered an enemy that he had to fight hard against. The people I encountered were either completely my opponent, or I was completely their opponent. Naturally, there was no need to use shadow clone. Lu Yi, the twin lotus flower, had a way to be used under himself, and also had a way to be used under others. It could also be used to set up a formation or in battle. Could it be used under his own shadow clone? The reason why he suddenly had that idea was because of the name, twin lotus flower on one stalk. The name Fanya wasn't without its name. For example, sharpness. When activated, it couldn't make the Pan Mountain blade sharper. For example, defense. When activated, it could become a defense. Twin lotus flowers on one stalk, born from the same root, only a twin lotus on one stalk could be called twin lotus flowers on one stalk. The main body and the shadow clone were twin lotuses born from the same stalk. I raised my hand and pressed towards the shadow clone. Although I hadn't used it yet, spirit energy didn't feel weak at all. This time I had found the right direction. My small hand pressed under the shadow clone, and the spirit inscriptions were activated, forming the twin lotus leaf. The moment the leaf was formed, spirit energy suddenly had a strange feeling. Originally, the shadow clone was formed from my spirit inscriptions, so I couldn't control it. It was just like how Imperial equipment was special. Apart from this, there wouldn't be any other part of it. But at this moment, I felt as if my senses had extended to the shadow clone. It was a very strange feeling. While I was thinking about it, a sudden change occurred. At the location of the source aperture, the talent tree suddenly began to shake uncontrollably. Following that, a visible root extended out and retreated towards the location of the Bingdi lotus flower, piercing into the split shadows. Spirit energy was startled. I didn't think that such a change would occur. I calmed my mind and quietly observed the changes. Just a moment ago, spirit energy's face sank because I felt that the talent tree was crazily pouring its blood chi and spirit inscriptions into the shadow clone. I hurriedly calmed my mind and controlled the talent tree. Fortunately, everything went smoothly. Under my control, the talent tree stopped absorbing my energy. Just a moment ago, a lot of blood qi and fanya were poured into the shadow clone. When spirit energy focused on it, he was a little surprised. This was because the phantoms that were originally formed by spirit tattoos had become less real than before. Moreover, I could vaguely feel that the connection between my body and the phantoms had become closer. It was as if the phantoms were really an extension of my body. I hurriedly checked my body. I discovered that I had only used up some blood qi and spirit inscriptions, but it didn't affect my foundation. Calming my mind, I thought back to what had just happened. Spirit energy had seen through the mysteries of the twin lotus flower. I couldn't help but feel excited because things were definitely as I thought. This twin lotus leaf was definitely the most mysterious leaf I had ever come into contact with. With a thought, the talent tree stopped absorbing my main body's energy and poured it into the shadow clone. After that time, without spirit energy's control, the process of absorbing and pouring energy into the shadow clone was much smoother. The shadow clone became more and more real, as if it really didn't have any flesh. A moment ago, the shadow clone completely solidified. The talent tree's root in the shadow clone's body also broke at that moment. Then, the root floated in the shadow clone's body and turned into the shape of a lotus flower. Hoopa didn't know when it woke up. Its pair of tiger eyes stared in shock at spirit energy's main body and shadow clone. No matter how hard it thought, it couldn't understand why it had lost a master the moment it woke up. Spirit energy turned to look at it, and the shadow clone also turned to look at it. Hoopo's fur instantly exploded. It let out a meow and rushed out of the door, disappearing without a trace. "Don't make a fuss." Spirit energy sneered and continued to study its shadow clone. The shadow clone now was completely different from the one it had constructed in the beginning. The shadow clone after that was only used to confuse the enemy's vision and would shatter upon contact. However, the shadow clone now didn't look any different from a real person. It didn't have any flesh or blood, and spirit energy didn't have any distinguishing features. I didn't have any distinguishing features either. Even the white mole under my arm was an exception. That kind of shadow clone wasn't just a shadow clone, it was a real clone. Perhaps it was because I didn't pour any talent tree's root into the shadow clone's body, the connection between the main body and the shadow clone became closer. Spirit energy was able to sense everything about the shadow clone and could also control me to do whatever it wanted to do. His field of vision also became strange, and everything he saw behind his eyes was two different scenes. Spirit energy didn't feel dizzy and hurriedly closed its eyes. Fortunately, my soul was always in front of me and my mind was strong. Thus, I got used to that kind of vision in just a moment. Furthermore, I realized that if I focused my mind on either the main body or the shadow clone, the vision of the other body would become blurry. That was a good thing. Chapter 981. The benefits of a strong soul were in all aspects. Just like now, Lu Yi had only spent less than an hour to familiarize himself with his doppelganger, and he was able to multitask, allowing the main body and the doppelganger to do different things, and their vision was no longer affected. Only then did Lu Yi finally confirm one thing. The use of the twin lotus flowers required the clone as the prerequisite. Only by combining these two spirit patterns could its true power be displayed. This could be considered as finding the correct way to use it. After the initial novelty, Lu Yi checked his body. His spiritual power had been consumed a lot, but this was not a problem. It could be easily replenished. His vitality had also been greatly consumed, but it was also not a problem. His vitality was exuberant, so what if he lost some vitality? The only thing that Lu Yi cared about was the broken root of the talent tree. Half of it. For the time being, the talent tree did not suffer any damage from the Shadow Body Island. However, that root was ultimately an extension of the talent tree. It was considered the foundation of the talent tree, so it would not be easily lost again. One or two roots were not a problem, but if one was lost, the power of the talent tree might be affected. The talent tree was Lu Ye's most important foundation, so it naturally could not be damaged. Previously he had raised it. Therefore, although the clone was not the main body, he still had to be careful. However, if the clone was destroyed, that section of the talent tree would definitely not be able to be retrieved. Himself. Lu Yi could feel that it was very simple to retrieve the talent tree. He only needed to activate the talent tree lord. If he could absorb everything from the clone again. In the future, when he saw his master, he would not have a large butterfly clone. After Liang Meng arrived at the small hall, the faces of the cultivators on duty here smiled when they saw Zhou Kuei. Lu Yi, why did you come here to recuperate? Broken. In the past few days, several teams from the law enforcement hall had gathered to fight. 3 had spread throughout the entire vast sky city. There were many meetings in the city. Such a matter was naturally discussed enthusiastically. Jiao Ding. Looking for the minister, is this lowly one here? Zhou Kuei asked. This lowly one is outside. Brother Lu, please go ahead. When a person comes out, he needs to report. If he needs to protect Dai Hua, he needs to do so. Hence, Kuei controlled his doppelganger to take a detour and head towards the inner part of the small hall. Then he imitated the small hall. Seeing that Chen Chen was in charge, he cupped his fists and acted like a villain. Okay. Chen Yudang answered and gestured for the noodles to come out. Have a seat first. Jean Fac Kuei had his own objections. I didn't come here to find out if Chen could see through my clone. Although I don't have much confidence in my clone, that kind of thing needs to be verified before I can know. He then sat down at the side with peace of mind. After Chen Yudang finished dealing with his subordinates, he looked at Zhou Kuei. Are you okay? As he spoke, he stood up and walked to the side, brewed a cup of tea and brought it over. Zhou Kuei was flattered and quickly stood up to take it. I have something to do. Didn't you come to see if I have any orders? This was the first time that this lowly servant had personally served tea. Based on the current situation, Chen Yudang clearly saw through my clone's weakness. Otherwise he wouldn't have pointed it out. Chen Yubao didn't have anything to say. He looked at me meaningfully. Xiao Gao must have misunderstood something. He sat back down and said slowly, next time what you do next time is wrong. What is it? Zhou Kuei was thinking about what would happen if the clone drank the tea. The clone looked like a body of flesh and blood, no different from the main body. However, it was still a clone after all. No matter what, he would know after trying it out. He then took a sip of the tea. To actually be able to taste the tea, it was quite magical. In terms of perception, when the tea entered the stomach, there wasn't anything wrong. It was just that the clone didn't have a physical body. The tea that was drunk was just stored in the body and there was a way to digest it. Inxio is arrogant. What kind of suffering did she go through? You are unhappy that he is able to take care of you. That brat was spoiled by you and might not have a bad temper. In the past she needed him to take care of her. Chen Yudang said. Only then did Zhou Kuei understand that I was talking about him being punished for Lin Inxio a few days later. It seemed like the reason why this lowly servant personally served tea today was because of that. Inxio is very obedient. Zhou Kuei casually walked out of the law department's small hall and prepared to pay a visit to the fat elder in the first hunting pavilion. Although the old man looked impressive, after interacting with him a few times, Zhou Kuei could tell that the old man was definitely a spirit ocean realm weakling. However, he didn't know why he was guarding a place like the hunting pavilion. Just as he walked to the entrance of the hunting pavilion, no one walked out. The two figures stood at the entrance looking at each other with a foot of distance. There really aren't many enemies on the road, Xiang Ting thought. There was me. That guy I met coincidentally wasn't Ling Zhou, who had a fight a few days later. Seeing Zhou Kuei, Xiang Ting's eyes were spitting fire. Zhou Kuei was indifferent. After a moment of eye contact, Ling Zhou suppressed the anger in his heart and said clearly, I will teach him a lesson sooner or later. He then raised his hand and pushed Zhou Kuei to the side. Get lost. After suffering a loss next time, I didn't want to fight with Zhou Kuei in the city again. The taste of the defiant dragon thorn was so good. Zhou Kuei turned and watched me leave. The fat elder's leisurely voice spread into his ears. Bear with it for a while and the wind will be calm. Only then did Zhou Kuei retract his gaze and leave the hunting pavilion. The fat elder looked at me with a smile. Are your injuries better? Everyone wanted to ask about my injuries. I came to take a mission? Zhou Kuei asked. What else can I do? The old man has other things outside. What about him? Does he also take a mission? For now, I'm here to take one, not to visit you. The fat elder didn't understand. Visit you for what? Zhou Kuei said casually, I didn't come to see him. I have taught you a lesson, I will remember it. Zhou Kuei said but didn't do anything. Yes, I poured the tea. Would be a waste to drink it. I will do my own thing. Leave after you drink the tea. Ming, is he okay? Chen Yudang looked at me suspiciously. He felt that Zhou Kuei was weird today. Yes. Xiang Ting replied seriously. Let him do as he pleases. Chen Yudang was too lazy to care about me. He was also his son-in-law, so why did he care so little? Although I had high hopes for Zhou Kuei, I would remind him. If people didn't have self-discipline, it would be useless no matter how much others said. Rise while the clone was drinking tea in the courtyard, Zhou Kuei wore a mask and soared into the sky, heading straight for the city. At the same time, A Xiang Ting flew out from somewhere in Haotian City. At the bow of the ship, there were no cultivators controlling the ship. In Lu Ye's cabin, the spirit boat was explaining the details of the mission to the other members of the team. This was the first time Team A7 was out on a mission, so they were familiar with the process. In just a short while, Ling Zhou finished explaining and the other members were confused. That mission could be said to be difficult, but it could also be said to be easy. Most of the time there wouldn't be a fight. If they had experienced the mission, they would have been wrong. 200 meters away from Vast Sky City, the cultivator controlling Lu Yi suddenly said, "Captain, there is no one following you." Ling Zhou, who was resting with his eyes closed, suddenly opened his eyes. He got up and walked to the deck. Looking in the direction that the cultivator pointed, he saw a figure flying beside him a few hundred meters away. He looked around and saw that the person was wearing a mask, so he couldn't see the person's face. Ling Zhou frowned. He didn't care too much about it, mainly because the spiritual energy fluctuations coming from the other party was only at the true lake realm. He subconsciously felt that the other party was just following me and was surprised. But then he thought about how he didn't have a clone today. Moreover, compared to Shifu, Yenshi's creations were even more profound. Didn't Shadow know that his doppelganger would be seen through? In Xiang Ting's opinion, the clone was the same as the main body. The true lake stage cultivators would definitely think that it was an empty seat that could break through the avatar. As for Spirit Sea Realm cultivators, they would be able to see through it. Try it out. Zhou Kuei took out the one wool from his storage bag. He threw the clothes to the clone and the clone quickly put on the martial tree. The two figures stood up together and faced each other. Wang looked in the mirror. The martial tree and the retrieval. Zhou Kuei took off the mountain plate saber from his waist and handed it to the clone. The clone took it and left the room. I activated my spiritual energy and rushed to the law division. I took another sip of tea and savored it. Hearing such an evaluation from a woman, Chen Yudang's good mood suddenly disappeared. He wanted to talk to Zhou Kuei too much. I wanted to talk, but Xiang Ting was too lazy to talk. She just drank her tea quietly. After a while, Chen Yudang spoke. "Are you still okay?" "Am I?" "He should get lost." Chen Yudang looked at me. Why did he suddenly lose his temper? Zhou Kuei put down the teacup and stood up, cupping his fists. "This humble one will enter." The clone was perfect and Chen Yudang couldn't see any flaws at all. Looking at the entire 4 prefectures, Chen Yudang was also the weakest Spirit Sea Realm cultivator. Even I could see the flaws, so Zhou Kuei thought that no one could see the flaws. What? The main reason was to let him see. This junior will take his leave. Zhou Kuei turned and left. The fat old man who stayed behind could totally figure out what Zhou Kuei was doing outside. After leaving the hunting pavilion, Zhou Kuei stood on the spot and muttered to himself. Then he turned right and arrived at the law division's small hall. Chen Yudang looked at him. "Are you still okay?" "I finished drinking my tea." Zhou Kuei pointed to the place where he sat and sat back down. He picked up the tea and sipped it again. Chen Yudang looked at me for a moment and said, "Big son, if he has something to do, he will go and cultivate. At your age, it is the time for you to withdraw your essence. Don't think that you will be arrogant just because you don't have some cultivation. The most taboo in cultivation is to slack off." Although it was on the way to be safe, I still instructed, "Be careful." "Oh, Captain, doesn't he feel that that person's figure doesn't seem familiar?" the team member asked. That was what I said, but Ling Zhou was still deep in thought. After hearing what I said, Ling Zhou suddenly realized that that person's figure was indeed very familiar. At this moment, a person's name popped up in his mind. "Luya?" I pointed. Chapter 982. Captain, he's coming? The cultivator controlling the spirit boat suddenly exclaimed in a low voice. This was because the fellow wearing the mask that was originally flying by the side of the boat had turned around and was flying straight towards them. His aura was fierce and his spiritual power was surging. He didn't come with good intentions. Zhou Kuei shouted, "Lu Ye, how dare you!" They couldn't figure out what Lu Ye was up to. How dare he attack them so brazenly? Moreover, he came alone. They had fought in the 100 Fragrances house before, and Zhou Kuei had suffered a little in that fight. It also made him realize that although Lu Ye's cultivation was lower than his physical strength was not inferior at all. However, the two sides had restrained themselves in that fight and didn't use their full strength. There was a gap of 4 levels between their cultivation. Zhou Kuei believed that if he went all out, Lu Ye would definitely not be his opponent. He had been holding a grudge against Lu Yi for losing face in the courtyard of the 100 Fragrances house, so when he met Lu Yi in the hunting pavilion, he spat out some harsh words. Who would have thought that before he could find trouble with Lu Yi would come knocking on his door instead. Although he was angry, Zhou Kuei was happy. Lu Yi took the initiative to attack them. If he fought back, it would be logical. Later, when the matter was brought to the department head, he would be able to justify himself. Today he must teach him a lesson and vent his anger. Many thoughts flashed through his mind. With a roar, Zhou Kuei took a step out of the spirit boat and went straight to meet Lu Yi. His spiritual power and qi and blood surged, forming a thick and solid shield on the surface of his body. His momentum also reached the peak in an instant. At the same time he punched behind him. Clang! The sound of a long saber being unsheathed was heard. The saber flashed and slashed at Ling Qi's head. The Pan Shan saber was with the doppelganger. At the moment, Ling Qi was using a spare long saber. Although the quality was not as good as the Pan Shan saber, it was still convenient to use. The long saber and the fist were in a stalemate for a moment. Lu Yi and Ling Qi collided. Ling Qi's expression changed because he felt the sharpness of the saber. His qi and blood and the defense condensed by Lu Yi showed no signs of difficulty. He dared to continue the stalemate. Once the defense was broken, he might not be able to take the saber with his body alone. His other fist punched out, but the force was small. When a physique cultivator's cultivation was higher, they would use something to defend Zhou Kuei, such as a shield. This was because when a physique cultivator's cultivation was high, their qi and blood would be vigorous, but their physique would also be weak. By using a physique cultivator's defense, Zhou Kuei would be able to avoid some damage and better protect himself and his companions. However, when one's cultivation reached the level of spiritual power, the defense formed by qi, blood, and leaves was no match for Ni Guang's defensive magic artifact. For body cultivators have a weak bodies weak, so they would use their weak bodies. Therefore, body cultivators with low cultivation levels would often use defensive treasures. If they could only rely on their weak physique, then using any kind of Ni Guang would be useful. In the face of the seventh punch, the spirit weapon turned a deaf ear to it. The long saber in its hand pressed down, and Lu Yi, who was already berserk, flared up even more. Under the long blade, a spiritual light flashed. Double-peak sharp spirit tattoo. Ling Li's expression changed because at that moment, I could clearly feel that my defense had been torn apart. The long blade had left a bloody wound under my fist, so deep that my bones could be seen. Ling Qi's body was weak. If it were any other cultivator, their entire arm would have been cut into 7 pieces. Intense pain swept through him, but Ling Qi's expression was calm. He pushed aside Ling Qi's saber and the momentum of the 7th punch was reduced. My fist hit Ling Qi's chest, but it didn't affect me much. A defensive spirit rune blocked the power of the punch. Although the defensive spirit rune was intact, it still weakened a small part of the punch's power. Ling Qi put away his saber and got into a fighting stance. The spiritual energy in my body instantly sent chills down my spine. For a moment, I didn't have the illusion that I was in a starry sky. Then, specks of light covered the sky and attacked me. There were so few specks of light that I didn't know how to deal with them. Fortunately, I had a lot of combat experience. Facing this kind of danger, I quickly curled up and crossed my arms to protect my vitals. Chi sounds could be heard as blood spurted out. Ni Guang's body slowly fell to the ground, and the ground below him was filled with large holes caused by the piercing arrows. "Captain?" Exclamations could be heard. Figures rushed out of the spirit boat. They were the members of the 7th team. We originally wanted to intervene. After all, our captain was a 4th-order true Lake Realm cultivator. In the War Province, unless Ni Guangjie came, who could do anything to me. But they never thought that their captain would suffer such a small loss in just a short exchange. They couldn't hold back anymore and rushed out. In the air, the spirit artifact chased after Ling Qi's falling figure. His saber kept slashing down. Even though he tried his best to use his spiritual energy to protect himself, the long saber enhanced by the twin sharp spirit inscriptions was incredibly sharp. Coupled with his spirit artifact, with his current 7th-order true Lake Realm cultivation, there was no defense above Lu Yi that he couldn't cut open. Every time the blade landed, a new wound would appear and blood would splatter everywhere. After all, Ling Qi was a profound body cultivator. Although the spirit artifact could break my defense, it would still take a lot of effort to kill me unless it used its divine sense. What's more, the spirit artifact didn't have the intention to kill. After an hour, I didn't even have the thought of making things difficult for Ling Li. I knew that because of Zhou Wang, Ling Li didn't hold a grudge against me. The conflict in the 100 Fragrances house was very likely directed at me. However, I didn't suffer any losses this time, so the matter was over. I, a Spirit Sea Realm cultivator, had always been petty and never held grudges. But Ling Qi said that he would teach me a lesson sooner or later. Since someone wanted to teach me a lesson sooner or later, of course I would teach Ling Qi a lesson. I knew that Ling Qi didn't have the heart to resist during the slashes. However, under the storm of attacks from the spirit artifact, he couldn't resist at all. He could only try his best to protect himself. Hong. My spiritual energy landed heavily on the ground, and both of my feet were embedded deep into the ground. The huge impact caused my legs to go numb, and I secretly exclaimed in my heart. Looking up, I saw the spiritual equipment that had chased after me and was about to kick me. I hurriedly raised my hands to protect myself, but it was too late. An Guang's kick was full of power. It hit my cheek and sent me flying dozens of meters, leaving a muddy footprint on my face. It was only then that the members of Team A7 caught up and attacked the spiritual tool. The spirit weapon was already caught off guard. Before it kicked out, it had already soared into the sky and rushed towards the nearby area. Along the way, it left behind a burst of unbridled and wild laughter. The members of the A7 team split into two groups. One stayed behind to take care of Ni Guang, while the other 7 chased after Ling Qi. However, after a short while, they saw Ling Qi's figure and could only return resentfully. At this moment, Ling Qi was leaning against the trunk of a small tree. His clothes were dyed red with blood, and his body was full of wounds from being stabbed and slashed. The flesh and blood around these wounds were twisted, and it was a hideous and terrifying sight. There wasn't even a muddy shoe print on his face, which made him look awkward and funny at the same time. Compared to the wounds on his body, Ni Guang's injuries were worse. I, a 4th Order True Lake Realm Body Cultivator, was actually beaten by a Spirit Sea Realm Cultivator. Moreover, I was beaten so miserably. My face was as pale as the bottom of a pot. The members of the A7 team looked at Ling Qi's miserable state and were filled with righteous indignation. Spirit Sea Realm Cultivator, this guy is too much. Captain, we can't let this go so easily. Yeah, Captain. Attacking a colleague is a serious crime. We definitely won't let this go so easily. The few of them were shouting at each other, and Xiaobu looked like he wanted to immediately bring the spirit tool to justice. This person is wearing a mask. They also saw my face. Who can be sure that I'm not a Spirit Sea Realm Cultivator? Suddenly a voice sounded. It was the FA Shio in the team. In the A7 team, I've always been the think tank. When we carry out missions, I'm the one who gives advice to young master. I'm deeply trusted by Ling Qi. The same figure and the same cultivation. It's not enough. Moreover, you heard that Spirit Sea Realm cultivators use knives. This person also used a knife just now. The FA Shio shook his head slowly. It's enough. The figure is small and there's no one there. As for the cultivation, it's not necessarily true. There are always some methods that can't be concealed. If this person is really a Spirit Sea Realm cultivator, then my strength is too terrifying. Crossing 7 realms and teaching their captain a lesson like teaching a lesson. Was this really something a 7th Order True Lake Realm cultivator could do? Hearing the FA Shio's words, the few of them fell silent. Originally, they thought that the attacker must be Ni Guangjia, but now they couldn't be sure. The main thing was that crossing 7 realms to defeat someone with a lower cultivation was too unbelievable. But if it was definitely a Spirit Sea Realm cultivator, then who could it be? This isn't a Spirit Sea Realm cultivator. Ling Qi, who had been silent, suddenly gritted his teeth and said, although I also saw the attacker's face clearly, the close combat was enough for me to determine the attacker's identity. The FA Shio frowned slightly. He agreed, but since the captain didn't make such a conclusion, I didn't say anything else. I just asked, Captain, what do you mean? This matter can't be forgotten. Ni Guang stood up and looked in the direction of Grand Sky City. Let's go back to Grand Sky City with you. You have to tell on me in front of the minister. That time I did suffer a small loss. I was taught a lesson to the point that I couldn't fight back. My body that had just recovered was severely injured and I had to rest for a few more days. But if a Spirit Sea Realm cultivator dared to do such a thing, then don't blame me for retaliating. Just as one of the team members said, attacking a colleague was a serious crime. Once it was confirmed that Ni Guang did it, I would lose a layer of skin even if I died. Although a Spirit Sea Realm cultivator was wearing a mask, I suspected that the minister didn't have the ability to verify this matter. After Luiye's mask, the crime of a Spirit Sea Realm cultivator would be hidden. Captain. The FACO said solemnly, please reconsider this matter. After all, he suffered a loss today. If the minister finds out, it won't affect his reputation. Chapter 983. If today's incident wasn't Louis Ye's doing, it wouldn't be a big deal. The law enforcement hall had offended many people in the past few years, so it was inevitable that some people would secretly hold grudges against them and wait for an opportunity to vent their anger. But if it was really Louis Ye's doing, what would the law lord say? Zhou Kuei, a 9th Order True Lake Realm Body Cultivator, was beaten by a 5th Order Weapon Cultivator. What's more, it happened right under the noses of the other members of the A5 squad. If this news spread out, it would make the A5 squad look incompetent, and Zhou Kuei the captain would lose all face. Zhou Kuei's face became gloomy and uncertain for a moment before he decisively said, return to Grand Sky City. As long as he could punish Louis Yi severely, what did losing face matter? Inside the law department's main hall, Chen Wudang looked at Lu Yi speechlessly. Does this tea still have any taste? Lu Yi had already drunk 3 cups of water. He didn't hold back and refilled his own cup after drinking it. It's okay. Chen Wudang rubbed his forehead helplessly. If you like this tea, you can take some back. Many thanks, sir. Lu Yi quickly thanked him. Heavy footsteps came from outside, and a short while later, a sturdy figure stepped in, wrapped in a bloody smell. Chen Wudang looked up and saw Zhou Kuei's miserable state. His face suddenly sank. What happened? From Zhou Kuei's appearance, it was obvious that he had been beaten up by someone. Moreover, the perpetrator had even used a spirit weapon. The fake wounds on his body were obviously caused by a sharp weapon. The most conspicuous thing was the large shoe print on his face. It looked extremely comical. It was obvious that he had been kicked in the face. Zhou Kuei was a true Lake 9th Order cultivator, so it was very likely that someone in the Spirit Sea realm had beaten him to this state. Chen Wudang subconsciously thought that some Spirit Sea realm cultivator in Grand Sky City had attacked Zhou Kuei. In the end, Zhou Kuei was still a soldier under his command and had performed well in the past few years. Even if he had made a mistake, it should be him, the law department's law lord, who should punish him, not someone else. Your Excellency, please uphold justice for this lowly one. Zhou Kuei cupped his fists and spoke in a low voice. He tilted his head slightly and put on a look of extreme shame. This lowly one was ambushed 200 kilometers away from the city. Who did it? Chen Wudang asked coldly. He was furious. Sneakily attacking the soldiers under his command was unacceptable. He made up his mind. No matter which warrior of the Spirit Sea realm did it, he would make them give him an explanation today. Beating his soldiers was the same as slapping Gan Wudang's face, slapping the law department's face. How could such a thing be tolerated? Louis Yi, Zhou Kuei grit his teeth and spat out this name, the look of humiliation on his face becoming even more obvious. After all, he was a 9th Order Origin Realm cultivator and had to admit that he had been beaten by a 5th Order Lu Yi. But as long as Louis Yi was punished, it was worth it. Chen Wudang was stunned. He looked up and saw Lu Yi sitting on a chair not far behind Zhou Kuei with a teacup in her hand. When their eyes met, Lu Yi's face was blank. Who are you talking about? Gan Wudang frowned. Louis Yi, the one who had a conflict with me in the 100 Fragrances building a few days ago. When did it happen? Chen Wudang asked again. 10 minutes ago. What the hell are you talking about? Suddenly a familiar voice came from behind. 3. See the sound of footsteps rang out, causing Zhou Kuei to turn around and see Lu Yi standing up with a teacup in her hand. Why are you here? Zhou Kuei's eyes spat fire. When he came in just now, he was so focused on complaining that he didn't notice someone behind him. Why can't I be here? Lu Yi snorted and put the teacup in his hand on the table in front of Chen Wudang, cupped his fists and said, Sir, Zhou Kuei is slandering a fellow officer. Zhou Kuei raised his hand and grabbed Lu Yi's collar, saying fiercely, It was you, don't think I didn't notice. Lu Yi didn't resist and just turned to look at Chen Wudang. Sir, you saw it, he even tried to attack me. How dare he act so presumptuously in front of Sir? Please allow me to teach him a lesson on behalf of Sir and teach him the rules of our law department. Let go. Chen Wudang shouted with a sullen face. Zhou Kuei didn't dare to disobey and quickly let go of Lu Yi's collar, apologizing. Sir, please forgive me, I lost my composure. This bastard has gone too far. Lu Yi raised his hand and flicked his wrinkled collar, standing there calmly. Chen Wudang looked at Zhou Kuei and said in a low voice, You said Lu Yi attacked you 10 minutes ago? Yes. Zhou Kuei replied solemnly. I had just received a mission from the hunting pavilion and led my team out of Vast Sky City. When I was about 200 li away from Vast Sky City, this guy suddenly appeared and caught me off guard. Division Chief, please take a look at my injuries. They were all caused by this guy. This guy is so lawless and dares to secretly attack and kill his colleagues. He is simply too daring. Please investigate this matter thoroughly. I don't know what you're talking about. Lu Yi snorted coldly. How dare you say you didn't do it? Zhou Kuei turned and glared at him. Don't think you can fool Sir just because you beat someone up and came here. Sir has sharp eyes and can see the truth. Of course it wasn't me. Lu Yi looked at Zhou Kuei as if he was an idiot. I know you suffered a loss at my hands a few days ago and you're angry. You're waiting for an opportunity to take revenge, but you don't have to resort to such despicable means. He then looked at Chen Wudong. Sir, this person is slandering me for no reason. Please uphold justice for me. Chen Wudong was annoyed by their argument and looked at Zhou Kuei. Did you see him attack you with your own eyes? Zhou Kuei said, he was wearing a mask when he attacked me so he didn't show his face. However, his figure and cultivation were the same. I fought with him at close range for a short while and was sure it was him. It can't be him. Chen Wudong said. Zhou Kuei's anger turned into shock and he looked at Chen Wudong in confusion. He stayed here for the time it takes to burn a stick of incense and drank 3 cups of tea. If you were really attacked before that, then it couldn't be him. Zhou Kuei was dumbfounded. If it was someone else who said this, he wouldn't believe it. However, it was Chen Wudong who said it, so he had to believe it. That's impossible. Zhou Kuei shouted. The person who attacked him was Lu Yi. How could it not be him? If it wasn't him, then who could it be? Zhou Kuei was confident that he wouldn't get the wrong person in such a close fight. Do you think I'm lying to you? Chen Wudong looked at Zhou Kuei coldly. Zhou Kuei shivered and quickly said, I wouldn't dare. Suddenly he thought of something and turned to Lu Yi. If it wasn't you who attacked me, do you dare to swear on Tianji Oath? If he swore on Tianji Oath, then all lies would be judged. What? Lu Yi sneered. With Chen Wudong as my witness, I need to swear on Tianji Oath. If you don't swear on Tianji Oath, then it's you. You've done too many bad things and I don't know who taught you a lesson. Why do you have to slander me? Seeing that Zhou Kuei was about to say something, Chen Wudong slammed the table. Enough. Both Zhou Kuei and Lu Yi stopped talking. This department lord said it wasn't him. Zhou Kuei, stop arguing. Zhou Kuei opened his mouth but eventually nodded. Yes. Was it really not him? But if it wasn't him, who could it be? At this moment, Zhou Kuei's heart couldn't help shaking. Thinking about it again, Lu Yi was just a 5th-order cultivator. If he really was that strong, then in that short confrontation, Zhou Kuei had been beaten to the point where he couldn't even fight back. This wasn't something a 5th-order true Lake Realm cultivator could do. Could it really be a Spirit Sea Realm cultivator who had concealed his cultivation to teach him a lesson? Zhou Kuei's heart sank as he secretly thought of possible candidates, but couldn't think of anyone. While Zhou Kuei's thoughts were running wild, Lu Yi took the opportunity to speak up. Sir, Zhou Kuei took revenge and slandered his colleague. If Sir hadn't testified, I'm afraid this lowly one wouldn't have been able to explain himself. If in the future the people of our law division continue to make groundless accusations and slander others without any real evidence, how can we enforce the law impartially? In the long run, the law division will no longer have any prestige to speak of. Sir, please punish him severely and uphold the integrity of the law division. You. Zhou Kuei turned his head and glared at Lu Yi. He had never expected that after he failed to lodge a complaint, Lu Yi would take the opportunity to add insult to injury. On top of that, this bastard even tried to use the law division's name to pressure Zhou Kuei. Zhou Kuei immediately had a bad feeling. Chen Wudong glared at Lu Yi. He didn't want to make a big deal out of this matter. In any case, Zhou Kuei had been beaten up this time while Lu Yi hadn't suffered any losses. It was best to turn big problems into small ones and small ones into nothing. But since Lu Yi had said so, if Chen Wudong didn't punish Zhou Kuei, it wouldn't be right. In the end, Lu Yi had indeed been slandered this time, and Zhou Kuei had indeed made groundless accusations. Then what do you think the punishment should be? Lu Yi said in a deep voice, Sir, you are the one in charge of the law division. I only follow orders. Chen Wudong gave Lu Yi a dirty look and scolded him in his mind. Then he turned to Zhou Kuei and said, You slandered your colleague without any evidence. Zhou Kuei, you will be punished with 1 month's salary and 10 lashes in the prison. Any objections? Zhou Kuei didn't dare to raise any objections. He lowered his head like a frosted eggplant. He cupped his fists weakly and said, "Yes, sir." Chen Wudong waved his hand. Zhou Kuei turned around and looked a bit lost. It wasn't because he was punished but because he was thinking about something. If Lu Ye really wasn't the one who did it, then which divine sea realm cultivator was teaching him a lesson? The feeling of being targeted in the dark was unbearable, especially when the one who targeted him was a divine sea realm cultivator. Don't go out on missions for a while. Rest well. Chen Wudong reminded him again. Yes. Zhou Kuei nodded. After Zhou Kuei left, Chen Wudong looked at Lu Yi and said, "I am satisfied." Lu Yi cupped his fists and said, "Sir, you are a fair judge. I will follow your example and follow your example in the future. I will take my leave now." Chapter 984. At the entrance of the Law Department's main hall, several members of the A5 team were waiting. Seeing Zhou Kuei walk out, they hurriedly greeted him. "Captain, what did the department head say? What punishment did Lu Ye receive?" "He'll have to be whipped. The taste of the defiant dragon thorn isn't pleasant." The few of them spoke one after another. Only the law cultivator noticed something wrong with Zhou Kuei's expression and frowned. "Captain, the department head didn't uphold justice for you?" Zhou Kuei slowly shook his head. "It wasn't him." "What?" "Lu Ye was drinking tea at the department head's place for half an hour. It wasn't him who attacked me," Zhou Kuei said. The others were extremely surprised. "Who else could it be?" Zhou Kuei shook his head. He also wanted to know who it was. While they were talking, Lu Yi leisurely walked out of the law department's main hall with a box of tea leaves in his hand. The members of the A5 team all looked at him. When Lu Yi walked past them, he paused and said, "Remember to send your captain to the medical hall for treatment later. The taste of the defiant dragon thorn, Tiske." He walked further and further away. The group was puzzled. The law cultivator vaguely sensed something and said, "Captain, he means..." Zhou Kuei smiled bitterly. "The department head said I was spreading rumors and slandering my colleagues. He fined me 1 month's salary and 10 lashes in the prison." Hearing this, the corners of their eyes twitched. Obviously, they recalled the pain of being whipped a few days ago. Captain had just recovered from his injuries and now he was going to be whipped again. Then, it was over. Zhou Kuei returned to his own courtyard. Before he walked a distance, he activated his spiritual core and flew straight towards the law department. "I want to try. The connection between my original body and my doppelganger isn't any weaker." Just now, when the doppelganger was in the law department's main hall and the original body went to attack Bao Yun, the two were 200 meters apart. The original body could still sense everything on the doppelganger's side and whether there was any coordination. If there was a problem 200 meters away, what about 700 or 1000 meters away? A short distance would cut off the connection between the original body and the doppelganger? Zhou Kuei knew, but he would know after trying. He sped all the way towards the law department. Soon Bao Yin noticed another problem. This was not because the avatar's spirit core was being consumed. Once the avatar's spirit core was used up, there would be no way to maintain it. How could an avatar replenish Bao Yun's energy? Later on, he had considered this problem, which led to the clone being equipped with a Pan Shan saber. He didn't carry any spirit stones or leaves. He found a heavenly secret business alliance in the distance, borrowed the heavenly secret pillar, and spent some contribution points to buy some Lu Yi. Arriving at a place with people, Zhou Kuei activated the power of the talent tree with a thought. Immediately, roots that could not be seen with the naked eye extended from the center of his palm. They retreated into the leaves and very slowly absorbed one of Bao Yun's spirit pills. He could vaguely sense that the spiritual core in his clone's body had been replenished. Avatars could replenish their spiritual cores. This was to be expected. The foundation of an avatar was the combination of a split shadow and the Bingdi lotus, and the avatar didn't have any roots of the talent tree. Since there were no roots, the talent tree's power could be activated to replenish Bao Yun's energy. Zhou Kuei was pleased. This way, as long as he wanted to, he could maintain the avatar forever. He couldn't even fight with others. As for how much of the original body's strength the avatar could unleash, he hadn't tested it yet. This matter could be put aside for now. He had to confirm the distance first. In the process of flying, Zhou Kuei also tried to activate all kinds of spirit patterns. He found that all of them were easy to use and there wasn't any difficulty. It seemed that the avatar didn't have all the abilities of the original body, and even a divine ocean realm cultivator couldn't distinguish the real from the fake. Such an avatar was probably beyond the comprehension of the cultivators of the 4 continents. 700 miles, 1,000 miles, 2,000 miles? Zhou Kuei kept flying backward and stopped. He felt that his spirit core had been depleted, so he used the leaves to replenish it. The connection between the original body and the avatar was still as tight as before. It was necessary to try again. Bao Yun didn't feel that as long as they were in the same world, the connection between the original body and the avatar would be cut off. As for what would happen if they were in the same world, there was a way to confirm it. But Zhou Kuei faintly felt that if they were in the same world, if the connection between them would be cut off, it would be easy to say if the avatar could still be maintained. There was a way to try it. The avatar rushed back to Haoyin City. The original body was refining the explosive fire spiritual stone. A month's supply would be delivered a few days later. Since he was free now, he naturally had to prepare for the next batch so that he wouldn't have to rush. Moreover, he might use the explosive fire spiritual stone, so Zhou Kuei didn't mind refining less. While he was busy, there was suddenly no sound of clothes fluttering, as if no one had landed in the courtyard. Then a familiar voice came, "Eldest junior brother, you're here." Zhou Kuei was stunned for a moment, but he reacted slowly. He quickly got up and pushed the door open. There were 8 figures standing in the courtyard, 2 women and 1 man. The one in the lead was a handsome man with a head of white hair and close-fitting long clothes with red clouds on a white background. It made him look like an immortal, and there was a small wine gourd at his waist. Just his handsome and confident appearance alone could be found in the entire 4 provinces. It was Xiao Xinghe. On my right, Feng Yuechan looked left and right. On my left there was a tower-like giant armor. His body was as strong as a fierce beast. Hearing the sound of the door opening, the 8 people all turned to look. 7 eyes met, and Zhou Kuei exclaimed in surprise, "Seventh senior brother." The door of the room next to him also opened and Bao Yunfang walked out. Then Yi and Hoopa heard the noise. "Senior sister Feng." Yi shouted excitedly and pounced toward Bao Yunfang. On the battlefield, the 2 men had only been together for a short time, so they were unfamiliar with each other. They hadn't seen each other for several months, so they naturally missed each other. Hoopa followed Yi and rushed toward Giant Armor. Giant Armor reached out and grabbed Hoopa in his palm. After rubbing it, Hoopa closed his eyes comfortably. Usually besides Zhou Kuei and Yi, Hoopa was the closest to Giant Armor. "Eighth senior brother." Bao Yunfang looked at Li Baxin and bowed. Li Baxin nodded slightly and looked up and down at Xiao Xinghe. "True Lake." "True Lake," Xiao Xinghe replied. It was because he had reached the True Lake realm that he left the Spirit Energy battlefield and came to Grand Sky City. "You have to speed up your cultivation. Eldest junior brother's cultivation is too slow. He has left you all behind." "What's eldest junior brother's cultivation now?" Xiao Xinghe asked. Feng Yuechan also looked over curiously. Zhou Kuei slightly pushed his spirit core. Xiao Xinghe was dumbfounded. How did he cultivate? We only met a few months ago, so how did he reach the True Lake realm? That kind of growth speed was too terrifying. As early as in the Spirit Energy battlefield, I noticed that Zhou Kuei's growth speed was very slow, and I was still trying to catch up. But now, it seems that even though my cultivation speed is fast, I am still far behind Zhou Kuei. Feng Yuechan also exclaimed, "Junior brother Lu is really amazing. Even if you came from a 7th grade sect and had seen many outstanding talents, compared to Zhou Kuei, these people were like the light of a firefly compared to the brilliance of the moon. I have obtained a lot of merit recently, so my cultivation speed is a little slow," Bao Yun said while looking in front of them. Feng Yuechan understood and giggled. "Is junior brother Lu looking for junior sister Hua Ci? Junior sister Hua Ci still hasn't come out of the Spirit Energy battlefield." Even though it was expected, he was still not disappointed. It was the same back in the Cloud River battlefield. Hua Ci obviously did not have the ability to break through to the Cloud River realm, but she suppressed her cultivation and cultivated in the 10,000 Poison Forest. Only when the 10,000 Poison Forest was about to disappear did she hurriedly break through and retreat to the Spirit Energy battlefield. It seems that it is the same now. The Spirit Energy battlefield does not have an environment like the 7 Poisons pool, so Hua Ci naturally has to make good use of it. Your cultivation method is too similar to that of an abnormal cultivator. Your thirst for spiritual aura is very small. Even the spirit lot is of little significance to you. On the contrary, ordinary environments like the Forest of 1,000 Poisons and the 7 Poisons pool are extremely unhelpful to you. Although you are suppressing your cultivation now, as long as you leave the Spirit Energy battlefield, your cultivation will definitely increase rapidly. Feng Yuechan said, Junior sister Huaxi wants you to pass a message to him. Cultivate well and protect yourself. Bao Yun's eyes twitched. Don't cause trouble. Feng Yuechan pursed her lips and smiled. There were no stone tables or stools in the courtyard, so they all sat down. Have you gone to pay respects to the headmaster? Li Baxin asked. Xiao Xinghe nodded and said, I just came from the old man's place. If I did, you would know that eldest junior brother lives there. Turning his head to look at Zhou Kuei, he said, Eldest junior brother, the headmaster's intention is for you all to come and seek refuge with him. The old man said that he is now the captain of the law department's disciplinary hall, and there are 8 empty spots in the team. Those 8 vacancies are reserved for senior brother. Eldest junior brother, you're so considerate. I'll thank you here. Xiao Xinghe laughed. When I set off for that place, I was still thinking about where I would be assigned after entering the State Guard. It was only when I met the headmaster that I found out that Zhou Kuei's side still hadn't been assigned. My heart immediately calmed down. Bao Yun then asked about the situation at Huitian Valley's Spirit Land. I learned that a batch of disciples from our sect had advanced in Spirit Qi and retreated to Bao Yun's battlefield. Now they were cultivating at Huitian Valley's Spirit Land. Most of our sect's disciples were now at the Cloud River realm. Since we didn't have the first batch to advance in Bao Yun, there wouldn't be a 7th batch or an 8th batch. When the time comes, it would definitely be broken. Presumably, our sect would be able to quickly recover in a few years. I had personally built Huitian Valley's Spirit Land, and there was no wolf pack guarding it, so there was no need to worry too much. The disciples could cultivate peacefully outside after arriving at Bao Yun's battlefield. When their cultivation improved, they could go out and explore to increase their ability to protect themselves. I had come from the Spirit Qi battlefield alone, so I naturally knew how difficult it was to go out alone. I had experienced that kind of hardship myself, so I wanted to let the juniors who came to experience it again. Has 7th senior brother been to the recruitment department? Bao Yun asked. Xiao Xinghe shook his head. I went to pay respects to the old man as soon as I arrived here. Then I came here before, so I didn't have time to report to the recruitment department. Bring you guys there. Zhou Kuei stood up and called out. He also went to the law enforcement department to report to Chen Yudang. The team members he had been waiting for were here. Chapter 985. He led Li Baxin and the others to the soldier recruitment department, registered them, assessed their military merits, confirmed their military ranks and received their guard badges. The entire process was a walk in the park. They didn't have much military merits before, so they only received the military rank of Guowei. This was also the military rank that most true lake stage newcomers received. The military rank was related to the monthly salary. Guowei's monthly salary was only 10,000 military merits, which couldn't be compared to Lu Ye's military rank. The monthly salary of Guowei was 30,000, and Lu Ye received double the monthly salary, which was 60,000 military merits every month. This was also the condition that Gan Wudong agreed on when he asked him to be the leader. Lu Ye thought that all the captains were like this, but when he chatted with King Gengwu a while ago, he realized that wasn't the case. In the entire disciplinary hall, he was the only one who received double the monthly salary. He was also the only one who had his own residence in Vast Sky City. The other captains didn't even have a fixed residence. Only Divine Ocean Stage cultivators were qualified to have their own residence in Vast Sky City. Lu Ye finally understood that the condition that Gan Wudong gave him wasn't set by the disciplinary hall's rules, but by himself. Gan Wudong's intention was to tempt him to be the leader, and then insert Lin Yinxiu into his team. Could be said that he put a lot of thought into it. They had already reported to the soldier recruitment department, and according to the normal procedure, the soldier recruitment department would transfer the new guards to the various mountain passes that needed manpower within 3 days. Thus, Seeing had Xiao Xinghe lead us around Vast Sky City, while she slowly rushed to the Law Division's small hall to meet Gan Yudang. She asked Gan Yudang to transfer Lin Yinxiu and the others out of the Law Division, and then transfer them back to her own team. In the small hall, Zhu Jia saw Gan Yudang and stated his intentions. Gan Yudang laughed. He uses people only because of his family. Si Ying's team had been lacking 8 people, and seeing that I didn't show any signs of recruiting, Gan Yudang knew that I was waiting for someone. As for who I was waiting for, Gan Yudang was also vague, and only then did he confirm it. Little one, although your 7th senior brother and I have only just advanced to the true lake stage, each of us has a deep foundation and can fight above our level. Although our cultivation is higher now, given some time, it won't be a problem for us to lower our cultivation. Moreover, you're familiar with us, so it'll be easier for you to cooperate with us when we carry out the mission." Chen Yudang nodded and said, "You have heard of Pill Heart Sects Lin Yinxiu and Feng Yuechan. You also know about our foundation. This martial king doesn't have any abilities? For him to think so highly of you. Seeing I'm gifted. Do you dare to guarantee that no body cultivator in the same level as me has a weaker physique than me?" Chen Yu's expression changed. "Really? Of course." Giant Armor nodded seriously. "You've seen it with your own eyes. Even body cultivators from first-grade sects pale in comparison to martial kings. Body cultivator, Dharma cultivator, sword cultivator, armament cultivator, and ghost cultivator are all gone. The allocation is appropriate, and he has considered it thoroughly. Since that's the case, I'll grant him permission." "Don't thank me." Giant Armor cupped his fists. Even though she knew that Chen would not reject her request, Seeing heaved a sigh of relief when she heard me agree to it. "Now that his team is broken, let's call it Team D4. "Yes." The teams of the disciplinary hall were not numbered to facilitate the completion and handover of missions. Naturally, Giant Armor's team had always been numbered. Giant Armor had also asked Gung Seeing about this, so she was naturally vague. Whether a team's number was highly ranked or not was related to the overall strength of the team. Naturally, Seeing had no objections to Team D4's number. Chen Yudang signed another order and handed it to Giant Armor. "Bring this order to the Military Supply Department and you can receive a set of treasures specifically used by the Law Enforcement Hall. However, he must remember that these treasures are extremely easy to refine. Try not to lose them." "Yes." Giant Armor replied. The so-called treasures used by the disciplinary hall included the 8 elements restriction Lu Yi. Giant Armor had only used that item once. It required the cooperation of 8 people. When activated, it could restrict the flow of spiritual energy within a certain range. It was specially used to capture people. However, Giant Armor felt that this item was not of much use. Because the members of the disciplinary hall were all at the True Lake realm, ordinary targets could be their opponents, so they needed to use the 8 elements restriction Lu Yi. The only one who could win against an entire team was Li Baxin, a small cultivator. The 8 elements restriction Lu Yi did not have any effect on Li Baxin's spiritual sense. Previously, he had suffered such a loss at the Immortal Dawn Mountain. When Ninghu activated his spiritual sense, he instantly broke through the 8 elements restriction Si Ying's restraint. However, since it was a setup for the disciplinary hall, he naturally wanted it for free. It was said that he would not have the chance to use it at any time. After leaving the small hall of the law department, he rushed towards the military supply department. When he arrived at the military supply department, he handed over the warrant signed by Chen Yudang and successfully received a set of 8 elements restriction Lu Yi. He then rushed back to his own courtyard and distributed the 8 elements restriction Lu Yi. As he distributed, he suddenly realized that one was missing. Where's Seeing Chan? Giant Armor then realized that the Divine Ocean Realm cultivator had not shown up. Yi shook her head, indicating that she knew where Seeing Chan had gone. When Zheng Qi was searching, he saw the Divine Ocean Realm cultivator rushing over from afar. He landed in the courtyard and said happily, "Captain, did you hear that our team has no new members? Obviously you heard about it from Chen Yudang and knew what he was busy with, so you quickly rushed back." Seeing then introduced the two sides. Since they were on the same team, it was naturally better for strangers to introduce themselves. Among the people present, the Divine Ocean Realm cultivator was the weakest. A first-order True Lake Realm cultivator would be considered a mistake. Lin Yinxiu and the others all called her senior sister Lin. The Divine Ocean Realm cultivator's eyelashes curled up as he heard this. Usually, Seeing would call you by your name. When had she not been called senior sister? In a good mood, the Divine Ocean Realm cultivator proposed, "Captain, why don't we go and hold a welcoming party for junior brother Li? It can be considered as a celebration for our team's establishment." Wrong suggestion. Seeing nodded. "Let's go to the 100 Fragrances Pavilion?" The warrior at the Spirit Sea realm cheered and led the way. Seeing Chan and the others who had never met you before, were all stunned by your childish behavior. They felt that it was a bit too early to call you senior sister. A moment later, everyone arrived at the 100 Fragrances Pavilion. What made Seeing extremely surprised was that the 100 Fragrances Pavilion was not open today. The small door was tightly shut. Thinking about the next time they gathered outside to fight, Zhu Jia frowned and contacted Gung Ling Sua to ask about the situation. Soon he received a reply. According to Gung Ling Sua, Shinmanzi had no intention of transferring the management of the 100 Fragrances Pavilion before the next incident, so it was not open for business for a few days. He wants to misunderstand not because of you. This matter is not a small matter, it's just that Manzi is willing to work so hard. Now you are ready to join your team and work with you in the law enforcement hall. Gung Ling Sua's team had always lacked a member, so it was perfect for Shinmanzi to join and leave. Yi, is he going to treat us? Gung Ling Sua asked again. Your 7th senior brother, we are here. We wanted to come to the 100 Fragrances Pavilion to welcome us. Did Seeing not introduce us? Bai Yunjian is wrong. After asking for Bai Yunjian's location, Zhu Jia led everyone over. Just as they reached the door, a person came to greet them. He had a potbelly and was dressed luxuriously. He cupped his fists and asked, "May I ask if you are Lu Yi, fellow cultivator Lu?" "Yes." Zhu Jia was not curious about how this person knew him. "I am the shopkeeper of Bai Yunjian Chenju Lai." The Divine Sea Realm cultivator chuckled. He felt that this person's name was really boring. Chenju Lai, he was really greedy for money. "Everyone please come out. Fellow cultivator Gung Ling Sua has already greeted you and booked a room for you." Only then did Zhu Jia realize that he had seen this person before. How could he recognize him? So it was Gung Ling Sua who greeted him. It seemed that Gung Ling Sua was not famous in Grand Heaven City. "Thank you for the trouble." Zhu Jia called out to everyone and followed Chenju Lai inside. The small hall was very quiet. The tables were all full, and the young cultivators were chatting outside in low voices, exchanging toasts and toasting each other. "Bai Yunjian is Tianji Business Alliance's property?" Seeing asked without thinking. The main reason was that Bosch Chen looked like he could fight with others. Although I didn't have any cultivation, my physique showed that I was used to living like a prince. If I really wanted to fight with others, I would definitely be able to display the strength corresponding to my cultivation. In particular, only cultivators who did not come from Tianji Business Alliance would look like this. Qianju Lai smiled. Fellow cultivator Lu has sharp eyes. Bai Yunjian is indeed Tianji Business Alliance's property. If fellow cultivator does not have a banquet today, please take care of the store. Since it's Ling Sua's recommendation, there's no problem. Zhu Jia agreed. Since he was working in Grand Heaven City, he had to attend banquets. It was also his fault that he did not have a suitable place to familiarize himself with. Under Qianju Lai's guidance, they passed through the small hall and arrived at the wing in front. Everyone took their seats. Very slowly, delicately cooked food was served. There was no wine. They drank together. Slightly tipsy, the atmosphere gradually became quiet. Everyone drank to their heart's content. Even the Spirit Sea Realm cultivators and Feng Yuchan drank fewer cups. Even Hupa drank more. It was mainly because he saw that the Martial King was having a hard time drinking, so he wanted to have a taste. As a result, he felt something in his stomach after a few cups and thought that his alcohol tolerance was amazing. By the time the alcohol surged, he was already dizzy and lying on his back. It was not until the stars filled the sky that everyone left Bai Yunjian. The hot wind blew and most of their drunkenness dissipated. Returning to the courtyard, they each found an empty room and went to rest. When Zhu Jia chose the courtyard as his residence, he had considered this matter. There were not many rooms there, enough to satisfy the needs of the 8 of them. In the room, Zhu Jia sat cross-legged and dispelled his drunkenness. He continued to refine exploding fire spirit stones while silently perfecting his plan. Now that the team is broken, 7th senior brother and I will rest for 2 days before we go to the hunting pavilion to pick up more missions. This way we can quickly earn merit points and improve our cultivation. During the day, Zhu Jia noticed that 8th senior brother Xiao Xinghe's cultivation had yet to break through to the 7th order True Lake realm. Obviously, this was the result of his recent cultivation with the spirit tag. Chapter 986. The door suddenly opened and the doppelganger sneaked in. Yi, who was cultivating beside Lu Yi, quickly opened her eyes. Under the moonlight, Lu Yi entered with a saber, raised a finger to his lips and quickly closed the door. He looked at the doppelganger in a daze and then at Lu Yi. She was dumbfounded. There were 2 Lu Yis. More importantly, she had been with Lu Yi for so long, but she couldn't tell which one was real and which one was fake. Hu Pe, who had seen this scene during the day, was once again enraged. He turned around and hid behind Yi, covering his eyes with his claws. The doppelganger sat cross-legged in front of Lu Yi. Lu Yi took the mountain plate saber from him and pressed it on the doppelganger's chest, urging the power of his talent tree. The roots extended and stabbed into the doppelganger. In the blink of an eye, the lifelike doppelganger turned into nothingness. The spiritual energy, vital energy, and even the broken root of the talent tree that had been consumed to condense the doppelganger were all taken back, leaving only a pile of clothes on the spot. Lu Yi put them away. When Lu Yi was done, he asked in surprise, Lu Yi, what's going on? Lu Yi naturally wouldn't hide it from her. If there was one person in the world who knew all his secrets, it was undoubtedly Yi. This is a doppelganger technique, a new ability I comprehended. Why does it look like the real thing? Yi exclaimed. Lu Yi smiled. In a sense, it's no different from the real thing. Amazing. Yi's eyes lit up. She grabbed Zhou Kuei's arm and said coquettishly, let me use it again. That's fine. Zhou Kuei agreed. The main reason was that the newly formed doppelganger's body was completely naked, so it was too elegant to look at. Naturally, it could be used behind Yi. I casually found an excuse. The consumption is small. I didn't have a chance to show it to him before. Yi wasn't disappointed, but she still nodded obediently. Okay. Cultivate. Zhou Kuei patted her head. As soon as he said that, Wei Ling didn't move. Zhou Kuei's expression turned serious and he hurriedly checked. There was no movement from Wei Ling, so there was only one possibility. The one who went down the peak did not receive the order to go up. That kind of thing was very slow. After some investigation, I discovered that it was Qian Yudang who told me to immediately rush to the law department's small hall. At that time, when he asked her to go to the small hall of the law department, Xu Lian vaguely felt that something was wrong. Go out for a while. Xu Lian said as she stood up and pushed the door open. Many years later, Xu Lian stepped into the brightly lit law department's small hall. Gan Yudang stood outside with his hands behind his back, his brows furrowed. He was clearly waiting for me. I'm your humble servant. Zhou Kuei cupped his fists. Yesterday, Nightingale reported that there were some strange movements on the misty cliff of Mtmi. It seems that there are no ferocious beasts there. Originally, the A7 squad had accepted the mission during the day and was about to investigate the situation, but this incident delayed them. Zhou Kuei was naturally vague about what had happened. Could it be that the captain of Team A7, Ling Zhou, had been beaten up by some mysterious person? Then he had come to the law division to slander him and was punished. Now that the spirit boat should be recuperating for a few days, it would probably not be able to lead a team to carry out a mission in the near future. That's what I mean. It was originally an urgent matter. There are very few ferocious beasts in the 4 provinces, including the military province. Nightingale reported the situation clearly, so it didn't matter if it was delayed for a few days. But just now, Nightingale's Nest sent a message saying that Nightingale, who reported the situation, had contacted us. Nightingale's Nest was an organization in the law department that was responsible for managing nightingales in all regions. The information reported by Nightingales was also organized by Nightingale's Nest. Zhou Kuei had dealt with people from Nightingale's Nest before, because it was an organization directly under the head of the law department. If others interfered, it would be a crime. Some people even knew who were members of Nightingale's Nest. Zhou Kuei raised his eyebrows slightly. Nightingale had just discovered something normal, so she suddenly contacted us. Obviously there was nothing abnormal. Is Nightingale alive or dead? She's still alive for the time being. It was very difficult to determine whether a person was alive or dead. It was easy to tell by looking at whether my mark on the battlefield had dissipated. If Nightingale's mark hadn't dissipated, it meant that I was still alive. He doesn't have the ability to find people. It's best to leave that matter to him, Gan Yudang said. Only then did Zhou Kuei understand why I had chosen him when there were so few teams in the law department. It turned out that I wanted to look at his tracking disc. Afterward, I had made up my mind to use the tracking disc to complete the mission as much as possible so that I wouldn't consume too little energy. However, things didn't go as I wished. Furthermore, the reason why that mission fell into my hands was because I had found the source. Originally, Team A7 had accepted the mission and was preparing to carry it out. However, when they were 200 meters away from Grand Sky City, the spirit boat was beaten up. I didn't have any thoughts of rejecting the mission. After all, a mission was a mission, and there was no punishment if it was completed. Although I had originally planned to let 7th Senior and the others rest for 2 days less, since there was no mission, there was naturally a reason to rest. Make a trip and find Nightingale. Check on my situation. Also check the fog cliff of Mount Me. If there are no ferocious beasts, kill them. Zhou Kuei accepted the order and asked, "What's Nightingale's name?" Gan Yudang said a name and Shu Lian silently noted it down. I then said, "Pay attention to your surroundings. If you encounter a weak enemy, immediately send a message to you." "Yes. Go." Gan Yudang waved his hand. Zhou Kuei turned around and walked out of the small hall, quickly returning to his courtyard. Landing in the courtyard, Zhou Kuei said, "Everyone, there are no more missions." The doors of Team A7's rooms were quickly opened and figures rushed out. Shu Linggui smiled. "So slow and there are no more missions?" I roughly knew how the enforcement hall worked. Since there were no missions, it meant that there was no chance to obtain battle merits. For a new true Lake Realm guard like me, battle merits naturally weren't what I lacked. "Captain, what mission?" Feng Yuechan asked. Normally you would call Shu Lian Jr. Marshal Brother Lu. Now that she was a member of Team A4, Feng Yuechan quickly adjusted her position and learned from Lin Yinxiu to call Zhou Kuei Captain. "Let's talk as we walk." Zhou Kuei summoned Shu Lian, who was specially prepared for the team. Everyone stepped down slowly. Under Lin Yinxiu's control, the leaf charged through the night sky and turned into a stream of light. Under Lu Yi, Shu Lian looked at the 10-point map while explaining the content of the mission. Qin Tianshui was shocked. "Mist Cliff?" Zhou Kuei looked up at me. "Seventh Senior Marshal Brother, you know that place?" Qin Tianshui smiled. "That place is about 1,000 kilometers away from Pilheart Sect. Technically speaking, it's under Pilheart Sect's jurisdiction. There's no Qin family outside. They're Pilheart Sect's upper sect, and their ancestors used to be Pilheart Sect's disciples." "What a coincidence. Senior Marshal Brother, you don't know much about Mist Cliff?" Qin Tianshui shook his head. "I've been there before but I know too much about it." I turned to look at Feng Yuechan. "Chan, do you know?" Feng Yuechan said, "You heard from my mother that Mist Cliff is called Mist Cliff because it's covered in thick fog all year round. It's so deep that you can't see the bottom. My mother said that there's nothing weird about the thick fog. It seems to be able to block divine sense. Hence, even Divine Sea Realm experts are willing to retreat to this place. In the early years, no Divine Sea Realm cultivators infiltrated this place to investigate, but they didn't find any places to go up. It's possible that there aren't any beasts living here. If there aren't any beasts living here, then it's definitely too bad. It's just a small trip," Zhou Kuei said. Everyone nodded solemnly. Zhou Kuei took out the tracking disc that he had bought from the War Merit Pavilion. He was about to use it to check Nightingale's exact location when Wei Ling didn't respond. Zhou Kuei quickly checked. A moment later he looked like he had something to say. "What's wrong?" Xiao Xinghe asked. "Nightingale contacted him. I heard that he's at a critical moment in his cultivation. He replied soon. That saved him a tracking disc. Was a good thing. Now that Nightingale had contacted him, this matter was easy to handle. When they arrived, they just needed to contact Nightingale and investigate the Mist Cliff. They could find any beast that might exist here and kill them." Lu Ye's speed was still very slow. The team was now full. They had to take turns and stop all the way. In less than a day they arrived at Mtmi. "This isn't Mist Cliff." Feng Yuechan pointed up. Zhou Kuei looked down and saw the thick fog rolling above. He could see 7 fingers if he stretched out his hand. Even the scorching sun could penetrate the fog. It was indeed amazing. "Go up," Zhou Kuei ordered. Feng Yuechan, who was riding Lu Yi, immediately controlled Shu Lian to go up. After a while, the 8 of them appeared at the edge of the Mist Cliff. Zhou Kuei had already sent Wei Ling a message and was waiting for Nightingale to come. At the same time, dozens of miles away in the Qin clan. In a small hall, the Qin clan patriarch, Li Baxian, sat still as if waiting for something. The Qin clan's grade was low, only reaching the 8th grade. It was much worse than the Immortal Dawn Mountain that Zhou Kuei had been to before. As the patriarch of the Qin clan, Li Baxian's cultivation was mediocre, not even reaching the 4th order true lake realm. His cultivation could not be considered the weakest above the Divine Sea realm. Little Elder Qin Lai hurried over and cupped his fists. "Patriarch, Nightingale sent a message. The people from the law enforcement hall are here." Li Baxian nodded lightly. The law enforcement hall's actions are sometimes slow. Since they're here, act according to the plan. Let us watch a good show and send us away quickly. "Yes." Qin Lai responded and sent a message out. Shu Lian snorted, "They're so careless. They actually let a big Nightingale notice. If it weren't for the High Lord not having any means to stop them, I'm afraid they would have ended up in trouble. Chunlai said, they haven't been rewarded yet. These are all useful things. They'll do it again in the past. It's best if they don't have a past. Otherwise, if the High Lord blames them, no one will be able to bear it. Li Baxin said angrily, but he didn't feel any heartache. The High Lord's methods have no limits. It's a waste to use them on a nightingale. Our matters were intentionally exposed by a nightingale. The Chen clan could only quickly capture Nightingale, but they didn't dare to kill her. The main reason was that once Nightingale died, the Law Division would definitely investigate to the end. At that time, the Chen clan would be able to get away with it. They could only use the methods left behind by the High Lord. Chapter 987. Fortunately, the worst-case scenario didn't happen. Nightingale was also subdued. As long as we do the right thing this time, there shouldn't be a problem, Qinlai said. Qin Tianxue nodded slightly and asked casually, which team from the disciplinary hall came this time? There's no news for now. Nightingale is on her way to meet them. We'll know when she meets them. Report at any time. Qin Tianxue ordered indifferently, but he was secretly vigilant. He hoped it wasn't one of the more troublesome teams. The secret under the fog cliff couldn't be exposed. While waiting at the edge of the fog cliff, Lu Yi said, you wait here. I'll go down and take a look. I'll go with you. Li Baxin stepped forward. Lu Yi pondered for a moment and agreed. The two jumped into the thick fog one after the other. The moment they entered the fog, the surrounding light disappeared and was replaced by darkness. Lu Yi slowed down while sensing Li Baxin's position. At first, there was nothing abnormal, but as the two dived deeper, Lu Yi found that his perception seemed to be suppressed by an invisible force. He couldn't sense Li Baxin's existence anymore. He hurriedly urged his divine sense and immediately found that Feng Yuechan was right. The fog here had a mysterious suppression on divine sense. The deeper they went, the more obvious the suppression. After diving for less than 100 feet, Lu Ye's expression changed and he whispered, Fourth senior brother. Magnetic field. Li Baxin's voice came from nearby, sounding surprised. It couldn't be helped. The spiritual power flowing in their bodies showed signs of being suppressed. This was clearly the work of the magnetic field. Lin Yinxiu only sensed the magnetic field, but the flying sword didn't have divine sense. Although it was constantly suppressed, it felt even more vaguely than me. Dust particles gathered in the thick fog, and the magnetic force field was emitted from those particles. Those particles were shockingly the dust of the magnetite ores. We can go further up, Chu Rongmao said. Simply having one's perception and divine sense suppressed wasn't too big of a problem. As long as one was vigilant enough, they could avoid some of the potential risks. However, the magnetic field wasn't the bane of cultivators. The higher they went, the less concentrated the magnetic field became. Once Lu Ye's divine sense was imprisoned, they would inevitably fall to the bottom of the cliff. Moreover, it wouldn't be safe at all, and even coming down would be troublesome. The strange thing was that even divine ocean realm cultivators were willing to enter that damned place. Spiritual power was the smallest advantage of the spirit sea realm, but that advantage was of no use here. With the existence of the magnetic field, such a place could not be considered a small danger zone. Go! The flying sword shouted. Taking advantage of the fact that Chu Rong was obviously suppressed, it flew down. Lin Yinxiu followed closely behind. A moment later, the two of them broke through the blockade of the thick fog and returned to the cliff. When he landed, he saw a cultivator wearing a mask standing to the side. It should be Nightingale. Chu Rong picked up the guard token at his waist and shook it. Chu Rong, 4th Squad of the Law Enforcement Hall. Greetings, little one. Nightingale saluted. Report his findings in detail. Chu Rong ordered. Nightingale then informed me of her findings. Yes, before I could finish my sentence, we suddenly heard cries of alarm and screams nearby. Everyone looked in the direction of the sound and saw everything. The source of the sound was not far away. Judging from the sound, something must have happened. Let's go and take a look. As the flying sword spoke, it soared into the sky and flew over. Everyone followed closely behind. Nightingale's cultivation was the highest. She was at the true lake realm, so she was at the front. While someone was paying attention to me, she raised her hand and tapped on her battlefield imprint to send out a message. In the Chen family's small hall, the young elder Ling Qi raised his head and looked at Li Baxin. Nightingale sent a message. This time, 4th Squad is carrying out a mission. The leader is called Flying Sword. Li Baxian's heart was immediately put at ease. It's good that it's these teams. He suddenly reacted and looked up. What did he say the leader was called? Flying Sword. Ling Qi answered. Lu Ye from the Jade Blood Sect? It should be me. Chu Rong nodded. You heard that I joined the law enforcement hall and caused a big disturbance in Haoyan City. The news of several teams of the law enforcement hall gathering a crowd to fight had already spread throughout Haoyan City. The communication between cultivators was extremely convenient, so it was natural that Ling Qi did not hear about it. Seeing Li Baxian's expression, Ling Qi asked curiously, Master knows me? You've seen him before. Chu Rong Mao shook his head. Yes. My lord has already ordered me to befriend this person at all costs if I meet him. Chu Rong was moved. My lord thinks so highly of me? My lord has never considered. Li Baxian looked excited. That's really a godsend opportunity. Originally the Zhou family was almost exposed. Even if they made up for it beforehand they would still be punished. But if they could befriend Lu Ye according to the Lord's order, and even enlighten him so that he could work for the Lord, it would definitely be a small merit. At that time they would not be able to make up for it. The show should be over soon, right? Li Baxian asked. It's not bad. 8th Elder's Chen Liamong was sent out. It's enough for us to report. Chu Rong replied. It was not that he felt pity for Chen Liamong. 8th Elder had raised him for decades. That time Chen Liamong's corpse would not be intact. With Chen Liamong's help, the strength of the 8 elders of the beast taming school would be reduced. But that was something that could be done. Nightingale had not reported whether there were any ferocious beasts here. If the law enforcement hall found something they would definitely leave. They would only leave if they did not find a way to report to the Lord. Then the secret on the fog cliff could be preserved. Although this secret could not be discovered by anyone, it was better to be safe than sorry. He personally went to invite Louis Yer over. I led the team to kill the ferocious beasts and saved your Chen family. Your Chen family should thank him. Ling Qi naturally knew Li Baxian's plan, and immediately accepted the order. Yes. At this time, Flying Sword and the others had not yet arrived at the source of the movement. Looking from afar they saw a few figures running for their lives in the rear, shouting and yelling. In front of them, there was a giant python that was more than 10 feet long chasing after them. This giant python was very small, and its body was covered with green scales. The 2 sides of the snake's head were hidden and bulging. Its power was extraordinary. From afar they could feel its ferocious aura. If such a giant python took a step back, it would most likely turn into a flood dragon. The giant python's abdomen was not bulging, and it looked like a human shape. Obviously no one had encountered it and was swallowed alive. The few people who were still alive were scared out of their wits. In such a situation they should have been running for their lives every year. However, those people were gathered together. Obviously they were frightened and did not have the master of the 8 gods. The few cultivators' cultivation was also low, and they were all only at the spirit stream realm. They could even escape by flying, and their speed was even slower than Chen Liamong's. Just as the giant python opened its bloody mouth and was about to launch an attack, a sizzling sound suddenly rang out. Then the flying sword slashed at the python's head one after another. Chu Rong Mao took the lead. The sword cultivator's killing power was the weakest, and the speed of the giant armor was also the slowest. In the blink of an eye, it chopped at Chen Liamong's head. Sparks flew, and the green scales covering the python's body were extremely strong. They blocked the attack of the giant armor and did not cause any obvious injuries. However, the force of the collision still caused the giant python to stagger, and the spirit stream stage cultivators managed to avoid disaster by a hair's breadth. Before the flying sword rushed down, it stepped on Chen Liamong's head. Holding the Pan Shan saber, it stabbed at the python's head fiercely. Under the saber, a light flashed and the double-peak sharp spirit pattern supported it. When the saber fell, Chen Liamong obviously sensed the danger. Its head shook, and its demonic aura surged, turning into a solid defense. The saber broke through the demonic aura protection and stabbed under Chen Liamong's head. It went half a foot into the flesh but it could not move back. Chen Liamong was in pain, and the snake's tongue moved in and out of its mouth. It shook its head and wanted to throw the flying sword up. However, Bai Lin, who was rushing over, grabbed its tail with both hands and pulled it forward. The 30-meter-long giant python's body was pulled forward, and it fell to the ground. Lin Yin's sleeves floated in the air, and her giant armor appeared, turning into streaks of sword light that slashed upwards. Next to me, Feng Yuechan's expression was solemn, and she quickly formed exquisite techniques. Xiao Xinghe also rushed over and took out his saber. Taking advantage of Chen Liameng's momentary struggle to get up, he slashed at the python's body, causing sparks to fly and blood to splatter. A ghostly figure suddenly appeared next to Chen Liameng's head. It was Qin Tianshui, and the short sword in his hand mercilessly stabbed at the python's eyes. In one strike, the python's eyes were intact. Qin Liameng was enraged and it turned its head to bite at Qin Tianshui. In an instant, a fishy smell assaulted Qin Tianshui's face, and he slowly opened his eyes. Your body floated forward, and the Tsurong python's bloody mouth chased after you. It looked as if it wanted to bite you to death. A tower-like body suddenly appeared behind Tsurong Mao. Bai Lin's qi and blood surged. She squatted slightly and her center of gravity shifted upwards. It was as if special roots had grown from her feet. The giant snake's head slammed into me and Bai Lin moved. I suddenly raised my hand and grabbed one of the fangs on Qin Liameng's lower jaw. My other hand grabbed the fangs on his upper jaw. With a roar, I suddenly spun, and the giant snake's body was shaken like a whip. It spun half a circle and then fell heavily to the ground. Dust flew everywhere. However, everyone's attacks didn't stop. Lin Yin's giant armor, Feng Yuechan's techniques, and Chu Rong's and Xiao Xinghe's saber's attacks didn't break the python's body. Chen Liameng, who was thrown to the ground, wanted to raise his head, but Bai Lin had already stepped on his head, and she swung her fist at his head. Every time his fist landed, the small ground would tremble. No matter how much Chen Liameng struggled, he couldn't break free from the restraints of Chu Rong's foot. Qin Tianshui took advantage of the situation, and the short sword in his hand slashed at the Tsurong python's weak defense, stabbing it to his heart's content. At first, the Tsurong python resisted quite fiercely, but gradually, its movements became louder and louder, until it finally stopped breathing. As Bai Lin punched out, the head of the true lake realm Chen Liameng was split open. Chapter 988. The battle started quickly and ended quickly as well. In less than 20 breaths of time, such a ferocious demonic beast had been killed. The few spirit stream stage cultivators who had been rescued were dumbstruck, unable to regain their senses for a long time. It was only then that Nightingale finally arrived. Lu Yi stepped on the jade scale python and pulled out the mountain pan saber. He glanced at Ying. Is it this vicious beast? It should be. Ying nodded. Mission complete. This mission was much easier than the mission to find the person. It was mainly because the team of 6 cooperated seamlessly, and all 6 of them had decent strength. That was why they were able to take it down without any casualties. There was no need to rush back. To be safe, it would be better to patrol the surroundings. In any case, it wouldn't take too much time. As Lu Yi thought this, he suddenly raised his head and looked in a certain direction. He saw a streak of light quickly flying over. Feeling the spiritual energy fluctuations, it was obviously a true lake realm cultivator. Lu Yi waved his hand without leaving a trace. Ying cupped her fists silently and quickly retreated, disappearing without a trace. Yi Ying's identity was extremely hidden. It was best not to show her face in front of others. Lu Yi didn't know who it was, but it was very likely that it was someone from a nearby sect or family who had noticed the commotion and came to investigate. A moment later, the person landed, revealing his figure. Lu Yi looked over and saw that it was a white-haired old man. Although he was old, his body was sturdy, and his vitality was abundant. It was obvious that he walked the path of a body cultivator. Great Elder. The spirit stream realm cultivators who were still in shock cried out in grief. What happened? The old man asked. Among them, the younger ones calmed down and told him what had happened. You were following senior brother Wan to patrol the surroundings. When you passed by this place, this beast suddenly attacked and swallowed senior brother Wan whole. It also wanted to eat you. It was these people who saved you. As I spoke, I pointed to Mei Jian and the others. Hearing this, the old man became angry. Lu Yi, such a vicious beast actually appeared in your territory. Why didn't you notice it later? He had a pained expression. Turning around, he looked at Chen Lai and the others. This old man is Lu Yi, little elder Mei Jian. May I ask who you are? Chen Lai cupped his fists and said in a low voice, Law Enforcement Division, 4th Squad Chen Lai. The Chen family was shocked. The Law Enforcement Hall? Chen Lai explained, later on when I received news that there were no ferocious beasts in this area, I came to investigate and happened to see this ferocious beast attacking people. I see. Qin Jia's expression turned anxious. I still have to thank everyone for saving the lives of you, Lu Yi, and a few other capable disciples. It is the law enforcement hall's duty to punish evil and eradicate traitors. To the Hall of Justice, it's part of our duty, Mei Jian said. But to you, Lu Yi, and the other disciples, it's a life-saving grace. Turning to look at the cultivators, Mei Jian said, take your time. Thank you, senior brothers and sisters. After the cultivators hurriedly left, they sincerely expressed their thanks. Chen Lai waved his hand, indicating that he would definitely take it to heart. Back then we came here to carry out a mission, but in the end, we were still one step too late, unable to save senior brother Wan's life. The Chen family said, I dare not forget the life-saving grace. If everyone wants to leave, can you, Lu Yi, let Mei Jian do the honors of a host? Little elder is too polite. Your mission has been completed, so you can return after patrolling the surrounding area. If the mission was completed and they had to hurry back to hand in the mission and collect the merit points, they wouldn't have time to waste outside. If that's the case, all of you can immediately send a message to dispatch some people to casually investigate 100 kilometers away. If there's nothing out of the ordinary, immediately inform all of you. After all, this is your territory. Protecting the safety of the mortals in your territory is also your duty, Lu Yi. How could I dare to trouble the elites of the law enforcement hall? The Chen family advised, although everyone's cultivation is ordinary, there are only 8 of you. If we leave this place to you, Lu Yi, there will definitely be a reason. What do you think? Mei Jian pondered for a moment and nodded. That's fine too. Under abnormal circumstances, the matters in a sect's territory were indeed the responsibility of the sect. Even if the law enforcement team didn't come on that trip, Lu Yi would still sit by and watch if the jade-scaled python caused trouble. He would definitely send the weaker members of the clan to suppress and kill it. Letting Lu Yi inspect the situation in his territory to make sure there are no other ferocious creatures causing trouble will also save us some trouble. Moreover, it's already late. Although it won't affect the journey too much, it's still as convenient as during the day. It's too late to rest at Mei Jian for a night. Please. The Chen family extended his hand to invite them and immediately led the way. Chen Lai nodded slightly and led everyone in front of the Chen family. After a short while, they arrived at Mei Jian's location. Like the Zhou family in Dingtian City, Lu Ye's location was at the foot of Mi Mountain, and the environment was even more noisy. Although there was a large difference in grade between Mei Jian and the Zhou family, the scale of Mei Jian was obviously smaller. There were continuous buildings at the foot of the mountain, all of which belonged to the Zhou family. The figures of various young cultivators could be seen everywhere. While leading the way, the Chen family explained the situation at Lu Ye's place to Mei Jian and the others, appearing very cold. However, the difference in age was still quite a bit. Moreover, their seniority was also the same. Furthermore, Chen Lai was someone who could chat with others. He could only respond to 17 from time to time. The atmosphere was hot and cold at the same time. Soon we arrived at a small hall. It should be Lu Ye's guest hall. Mei Jian and the others took their seats. Mei Jian said, "Everyone, please take a seat for a moment. Go and ask the family head to come over. Also, arrange for people to patrol." Chen Lai had an objection. The Qin family left. After a while, Lu Ye's servant came to serve tea. After rushing all the way and fighting just now, Chen Lai wasn't thirsty. He picked up the teacup and took a sip. As soon as the tea entered my stomach, my expression changed slightly. I raised my head and looked at Qin Tianxue. "Don't drink." Qin Tianxue hadn't brought the teacup to his mouth when he was surprised. "What's wrong?" The others also paused in their movements. "It's not poisonous." Chen Lai closed his eyes and immersed himself in his talent tree. At that moment, a gray mist appeared under the tree. Just like that, I noticed that there was nothing wrong with my God's Lake. I quickly took a look. I saw that there was something missing from the God's Lake. It seemed to be a well-known bug. If Chen Lai didn't have his divine sense, he wouldn't have noticed it. I also knew what kind of bug it was. Even the talent tree was able to burn it immediately. And it must have retreated into his body through the mouthful of tea just now. Mei Jian instantly understood. It wasn't poison outside the tea but a foreign object. The talent tree did not have an extremely sensitive reaction to foreign objects that invaded its body, which was why it burned into a gray mist. When the bug got close to the God's Lake, a bunch of flames wrapped around it. Chen Lai heard a sharp and shrill cry before the bug turned into nothing. The color of the flames that burned the bug was the same as the flames under the talent tree. It was obvious that the talent tree was showing its strength. Dang. Qin Tianxue was so frightened that he threw the teacup in his hand. Although he didn't know how Mei Jian tasted that the tea wasn't poisonous, he was always the most obedient one. He would do whatever the captain said. Qinlai opened his eyes and stood up. Let's go. It was best to stay in a dangerous place. Just now, I didn't have a strange feeling because the law enforcement hall's reputation had always been very good. After all, they rarely did things that offended people. Sects and clans would always keep a respectful distance from them, but when it came to Lu Yi, they were coldly invited. Qinlai thought about it. After all, they had saved the lives of Lu Ye's disciples. It was natural for them to thank them. But now it seemed that the so-called thank you was just a pretense. Lu Yi didn't have any plans to benefit us. I thought about it. What was Lu Yi doing? If we offended the disciplinary hall, we wouldn't have anything good to do. There was no need for such a small family to play with fire. This bug didn't have any use. Time was tight. Qinlai didn't have much time to think. I only knew that it was more important to leave. At the same time, in a secret room, a moon-reflecting plate showed the situation in the small hall. Qinlai and Lin Yinxiu were watching from outside, monitoring the small hall. Seeing Qinlai take a sip of tea, Lin Yinxiu revealed a happy expression, as if a small victory had been decided. However, her happy expression slowly turned into astonishment. Qinlai noticed the abnormality in the tea and quickly stood up. In front of me, a man smashed his teacup. What's going on? Qinlai wasn't dumbfounded. The method given by the High Lord couldn't be noticed unless one was at the Divine Sea realm. Even if Lu Yi didn't have the ability, he should have noticed it. For example, this Nightingale. Before she was captured, she was obedient. Now, although Nightingale was still a member of the Law Division, in reality she was one of us. But there were all kinds of signs. Our methods have been exposed to Qinlai. We can leave. Lin Yinxiu's reaction was faster than Qinlai's. Before she realized it, she took out a jade pendant and poured spiritual energy into it. In an instant there was a buzzing sound. The small formation has been activated. Bring people to stop us. No matter what, we can leave and we can send a message. Except for Lu Ye, kill everyone else. Lin Yinxiu slowly ordered. Yes. Mei Jian responded and hurriedly flashed out. Lin Yinxiu's forehead was covered in sweat. She felt that today's small matter was wonderful. The main thing was that I didn't expect Mei Jian to be so vigilant. He didn't notice the abnormality in the tea. The people that the High Lord valued couldn't be underestimated. Although it was chaotic, Lu Ye hadn't drunk the tea yet. This thing shouldn't have hatched yet. In this case, Lu Ye was one of us. As long as the other 7 people had a chance to send a message, they could kill us outside. There was no way to turn the situation around. Thoughts flashed in her mind. Lin Yinxiu wiped the sweat from her forehead. She raised her hand and tapped on her battlefield imprint to send a message. Please report to the High Lord. At the same time, in a secluded place in the War Province. The lake rippled and the autumn water rippled. By the lakeside there were 2 straw huts. There were no women fishing by the lakeside. Even after fishing for a long time there were no fish. I was also relaxed. I just sat under the chair with a leisurely expression. Beside the woman, there was no man with an enchanting figure standing quietly. I knew that he had been standing there for a long time, but he didn't look impatient. He often looked at the side of the woman's face. The man's eyes were full of love. Chapter 989. On the shore of the lake, there was a peaceful atmosphere. Under the night sky, a gentle breeze blew through the girl's hair. She closed her eyes comfortably. Suddenly, she frowned and revealed a trace of displeasure. She lowered her head to check her battlefield imprint. She didn't know which blind person disturbed her at such a time. Soon her expression changed. What's the matter? The fishing man's voice came from behind her. The girl looked up at him and reported carefully, Senior, Lu Ye brought the enforcement hall team to the Chen family. The Chen family's patriarch, Chen Tianchue, enlightened him. Ka-cha, the fishing rod in the senior's hand, was suddenly crushed. He turned to look at the girl and shouted angrily, How dare he? Although his voice wasn't loud, his expression was extremely fierce. The girl quickly knelt on one knee. Senior, please calm down. You can't do anything right. The senior was obviously annoyed by Chen Tianchue's actions. Enlightened? For the past few decades, he had been planning something big enough to overturn the current situation of the 9 states. For this, he needed to wait for a special person. Unfortunately, after so many years, he hadn't found a suitable candidate until the sudden rise of the Jade blood sect's Wuxia. This made him realize that Wuxia should be the person he was waiting for. That was why he gave the order to befriend Wuxia at all costs. But his order was to befriend him, not enlighten him. Because once enlightened, even if Wuxia obeyed them, he would lose his value. Should be. The man replied with fear, but for some reason the Spirit Sea Realm cultivator seemed to have noticed something and was about to leave Xiao Shui. So what if I noticed something? The senior was surprised. How could I have noticed it? If it wasn't Qin Tianchui, it would be impossible for him to notice it. According to the information I received, he had just reached the 7th Order True Lake Realm after a long time. How could a Spirit Sea Realm cultivator not have the ability? Xiao Xiefeng also understood. I sent a message to ask how to deal with this matter. The senior was silent for a moment before saying, Xiao Shui hasn't used it yet. The man felt a chill. He knew that an 8th Order family could disappear from the 4 states with just a few words from the senior. There is someone more capable than you of honored Lord Hanhu. He told us to spare the lives of the Spirit Sea Realm warriors and kill the others. The High Lord slowly came to a decision and slowly stood up. Also he went to the fog cliff. The plan will be delayed. Originally they still needed to wait for a few more days. However, with Xiao Shui's actions, it would definitely attract the attention of the Grand Sky Alliance. At that time, if they didn't send Qin Tianchui to investigate the situation, even if Qin Tianchui was willing to enter the Misty Cliff and the possibility of the secret on the Misty Cliff being exposed was very high, they still had to guard against it. He could only delay the plan in case something unexpected happened. At that time, there was no such thing as a perfect plan in this world. For several decades, I worked hard to plan and strategize in front of the curtains, secretly using various young masters' methods. I was confident that even if the plan was delayed, it would only affect a small part of the situation. Yes. The man replied and soared into the sky. Very slowly his figure disappeared. The High Lord stood where he was and muttered to himself for a moment. Then he turned around and headed in another direction. I looked into the distance and saw a face that I hadn't seen for a long time. I muttered, "Please don't block your way." A cold light flashed across my eyes like a blade. Meishan Xiao Shui in the guest hall, there was a buzzing sound. Qin Jia felt his body sink slightly. Although this feeling of weightlessness disappeared very slowly, I realized what had happened. Space restriction formation. There was actually a space restriction formation here. But even so, with the activation of the forbidden space formation, a layer of transparent light rapidly rose up and enveloped Qishao. Trap formation. The expressions of the people in front of me changed. The Qin clan master's expression grew solemn as he channeled spiritual power into his eyes. Under the hazy moonlight, he looked at the figures that had suddenly emerged from the confinement formation. Surprisingly, their leader was the young elder of Xiao Shui, Lu Yi, who had treated us coldly just a moment ago. 7 pairs of eyes met and Xiao Shui shouted, "What is Ling Shi doing? Is she rebelling?" That was what I wanted to understand the most. Lu Yi invited us to Ling Shi as guests, but in the end, she tampered with our tea. Before that happened, she even activated the formation to trap us here. I really wanted to understand why and what Ling Shi wanted to do. We all had grievances with Ling Shi, so Xiao Shui had a reason to do this. Was Ling Shi from the Myriad Devil Ridge? Qin Jia thought about it and couldn't think of such a possibility. The Myriad Devil Ridge had always regarded me as a thorn in their side and hated that they had to get rid of me. We had done so, but unfortunately we had always succeeded. Today he was unprepared and had knocked Ling Shi back. This was a very good opportunity. However, even if Ling Shi could get rid of us, there was no place for us in the military province. Was it worth it for a small 8th-rank family to act like this? As he shouted, the Qin clan's leader secretly made a gesture with one of his hands behind his back. Lu Yi's figure flashed. He wanted to use Xiao Shui's body as cover to send a message. But why did Ling Shi do this? The current situation was extremely beneficial to us. Naturally, it was more important to send a message for help. However, before Lu Yi could do anything, Lu Yi had already shouted, "Kill us." I naturally knew that they couldn't give Xiao Shui and the others a chance to send a message. Otherwise, Qin Tianchui wouldn't be able to send reinforcements. Once that happened, Ling Shi would be far from being destroyed. When I gave the order, I also paid close attention to Qin Jia's reaction. In my opinion, if Qin Jia hadn't been enlightened, they would be on our side. The methods left behind by the High Lord were very useful. Although Divine Sea Realm cultivators were famous, as long as it was Chen Tianxue, they wouldn't be able to resist. After I gave the order, the young master's flying artifacts and spells covered the sky as they attacked the guest hall. Zhu Jia roared and jumped out in front of everyone. As his blood and qi surged, his body seemed to expand. Spiritual energy surged around me. I raised my hand and pressed it in the air. With my palm as the source, a tortoise-shell-like barrier suddenly formed, blocking the figures of everyone in front of me. When the weapons and spells of the young masters landed on the barrier, the sound of metal clashing could be heard, causing the barrier that was originally shining with a dazzling light to suddenly become dull. Then it became whole again. Although Zhu Jia's defensive method was weak, it still couldn't withstand the combined attacks of the young masters of Lingxi. The Qin Jia and the others attacked together. In an instant, the light of blades and the shadows of swords flashed, and spiritual energy became chaotic. At this time, somewhere in the crowd, the head of Lingxi, Lin Yinxiu, stared at the Qin Jia behind the guest hall, her heart cold. It worked. The Divine Sea Realm cultivator hadn't been enlightened. Lu Yi thought that the Qin Jia hadn't been enlightened, and Lin Yinxiu thought so too. After all, I had seen the Qin Jia drink this tea with my own eyes. As long as they drank this tea, they could avoid the fate of being enlightened. However, at this moment I couldn't be sure of one thing. That Divine Sea Realm cultivator hadn't been enlightened, because I hadn't used the method left behind by the High Lord. However, I couldn't sense any signs of resonance on Xiao Shue's side. At this moment, I glared angrily. There wasn't a single silver thread in my eyes, and there were special insects swimming in my eyeballs. It looked extremely strange. Originally, as long as the Qin Jia was enlightened, I could use this method to make the Qin Jia betray me. At that time, the people around me wouldn't be able to guard against it. With the help of Ling Shi's weak attacks, it would be easy to kill these 7 people. As long as the 7 people were killed, the crisis would be resolved. As for how to deal with it and how to explain the death of the 7 members to the law department, there was no way. But now the Qin Jia's side was completely dependent on me. I also saw Lu Ye, who was in front of the Qin Jia, send out a message. I immediately understood that no matter what happened to the Qin Jia and the others, Ling Shi was completely finished. Kill. Kill us all. Lin Yinxiu calmed herself down and shouted. Ling Shi was finished and she had to drag some people down with her. As soon as the order was given, the spirit stream cultivators who had gathered behind the guest hall boldly charged toward the back. Chili Bashan's flying sword wreaked havoc, and the Ling Shi cultivators at the back immediately fell like weeds. Seeing this, I frowned. Because most of the cultivators who fell were at the Qinlai realm or the Cloud River realm, I was able to kill them like flies. However, right now there was no time for mercy. Although his heart was filled with forbearance, he didn't hesitate in the slightest to attack. Numerous beams of sword light slashed through the crowd, reaping the lives of the spirit stream cultivators. Miserable screams filled the air. Li Bashan's flying sword showed off its might, but Feng Yuechan's magical techniques were also lacking. Every single one of her magical techniques was useless. However, Ling Shi had probably turned out in full force this time. There were even broken land cultivators flying over from one direction to join the battle. This direction was suspected to be the location of Ling Shi's Heaven's Secret Hall. The Xiao Shui cultivators who were at the Qinlai battlefield and the Cloud River battlefield should have received a message and were slowly rushing back. In a short 10 breaths of time, the corpses of Ling Shi cultivators piled up behind the guest hall. Blood flowed like a river. At this moment, the Qin clan and the others were locked in a bitter battle. As an 8th-rank Ling Shi clan, they had very few true Lake Realm cultivators. Excluding those who were inside, there were only 10 true Lake Realm cultivators left in the clan. These Qinlai Realm and Cloud River Realm cultivators couldn't withstand a single blow from Xiao Shui, but the true Lake Realm cultivators were the same. In the end, we didn't have much strength. The Qin clan could only kill 1 or 2 true Lake Realm cultivators, but they had a way to kill everyone else in a short period of time. The 8 of them fought as they advanced, and after a short while, they reached the entrance of the guest hall. They had a way to advance again. If they really wanted to enter and exit the guest hall, the space was too narrow and they couldn't use their full strength. If the Ling Shi cultivators swarmed them, they would definitely be trapped, and the situation would only worsen. In a short 80 breaths of time, the 8 of them hadn't sustained any injuries. Although they were light, they still affected their ability to use their full strength. Looking at the dense crowd of cultivators behind them, the Qin clan cultivator took a deep breath and grabbed at the air. A round ball the size of a baby's head appeared in his hand. When she saw this, Lu Ye's eyes narrowed, and an extremely safe feeling rose up in her heart. Stop. Stop me. Lu Yi roared and charged toward the Qin clan cultivator. 96. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.